Hello, hello, Warren. Hiya, Warren. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think we're good. There we go. Yes, we are good. Let's just go back to the right thing we've got here. That's the wrong thing. There we go. Hiya, Warren. Okay, let's see. Okay, I think we're good. There we go. Yes, we are good. Let's just go back to the right thing we've got. There we go. All right. There we go. We got that. We got that. We got that. There we go. Hello, everybody. All right. So hang on, we're gonna just a little bit early today, so we're all fine, all fine. Now, as you may have noticed, those of you who are what's the word, observant about these things, I I don't know whether it's the third or the fourth or the 17th. That's because I had the chat window, or the actual stream was open while I was getting the pop out chat for me. There we go. Is all the sound all good now that we've closed the thing? We got Steve W. Hey Steve, how's it? We got Feeder Brian. I was about to call you Feeder Brain. Which is that reminds me of a story. When I was younger, there was a guy called Brian Hunter in our class, and there was misspelling on his name on the team on the class list where it said Brain Hunter, which is a bit amusing. Then we have some. I'm so sorry, I don't speak Russian, Cyrillic, or anything like that. But we'll call it Kanapa. BGMI, hello, hi from India. Sheldon, how's it, Sheldon? Phil Cooning, how are you? Diane Diedrich, we got Cloudy from Connecticut. We got Guten Tag, not Guten Tag, yes, well, Guten Tag, yes. From Andreas from Germany, got Mondo from Texas, and John, who I think has been optimistic with a sunny Leeds. And then Jimmy Jam from Washington State. So there we go. So we'll just give a couple of minutes just to let everybody talk. Oh, we've got another Leeds. It's all Leeds today. And Nicole from the Czech Republic, how's it? And Michael from Graz in Austria, and Eric and Steve W in Klon, Russia. Hi Steve, how you doing? Susan Wiley, hello there Susan. And then EJ Orb, she says that EJ says the audio is a bit out of sync. It may be occasionally. I'm not quite sure why, what's going on. It could be because it's just like a little bit of a catch up. We've got Brandon from Oregon, and Johan Stroob from Belgium. Hi, Johan. Alan from Scotland. Clara from the Ukraine. Hi, Clara. How are you doing? There we go. So we've got hi Tony from Dublin and Lloyd Spencer. Reaching Tree from New Jersey. We got Random Guy Travels from Florida. I used to spend a lot of time in Florida, down in Tampa. Had a girlfriend live there. Manu from France. It's just all coming. Sven's here. Hi Sven. Everyone, it's so good to have you. Thank you ever so much, everyone, for being here. The reason there's a little echo, I'm afraid, is that I'm going to turn my camera around. Is that I am in what my wife calls the pit of despair, which is a very empty room, which is why it's kind of echoey today. My hair do lift. Thank you, Lloyd, for striking me again. Yeah, it's because and also the ceiling is double volume in here. So if you go to the dictionary and you look up really awful rooms to record audio in, there's a picture of this one. so there you go. I did say to my wife today, I felt that I probably needed an office out in the garden or something, which would kind of negate these things. But there we go. Lovely. There we are. Okay. All right. So here we go. So as I said, I have been placed in the cave. Yes, it's the room at the back of the house. It's the old servants' quarters, which makes it sound posh. But yeah, we live in a very old farmhouse, and the front half of the house is all very, very nice, and the back half is where the servants used to live. So that's why I've been banished to the back of the room. So there we go. So I have to say, so Portraiture, I used to spend some time down in Barry Island, hanging out with Mark Cleghorn of all those sort of things. Yes, the resident. You see, resonant sound's not a great thing, but I like the sound of it. Resonant. I'm in an opera house. So here we go. Yeah. So thank you everyone for all of your submissions. It's fantastic to I haven't looked at the images yet, but it's fantastic to see you all submitting. Now, obviously, because we have a huge number of images tonight. I think it's like 64 or something. I will try and obviously give as much input as I can into each one, but obviously because of the number, we can't dwell on them for too long. Otherwise, we'll be here absolutely all night. Anyway, so let's get cracking with the images. So here we are. So we have. Let me just bring up this. There we go. Okay, so this now I don't have any names attached to these. So I won't mention names by anything. Can you all see it? Just give me a quick heads up that everybody can see that picture of what looks like a blue trash can on a tennis court fence, I think. Yeah, we're all good there? Because obviously there's a bit of lag here. Okay, so I'm going to guess that seeing as everybody is completely quiet about it, that yes, you can see them. Seen, yes, okay, right, okay, there we go, just so we know. Lovely, okay, so here we go. So this first image, I think, yes, you've got a, this is the, we'll call it a blue trash can, and it looks like it's a tennis court. I feel what you've been drawn towards here is the pattern of the light on the trash can, and if this is what you're going for, then the best thing to do is kind of make that the subject of the image completely, and the best way to do this is to reduce anything, or to totally omit anything that can detract from that idea. So what we're sort of seeing here is that the left-hand side of the image, so we've got the chicken wire fence and the very deep blue where it looks like a pole or something is casting a shadow on the dustbin. That's where the image is on this one for me. I feel that it really wants to be, you want to focus on that. You've got a lovely contrast between the greens and the blues, and then you've got this patternation of the light coming through the chain link fence for the tennis court. And it's funny, when I look at this, all I can hear is balls being hit, that plink plonk of tennis balls. But everything on the right hand side of the frame is not really, it's not really adding anything to the image, and especially the top of the bin with that lip and the bottom. I think if you cut all of that stuff out and you would tighten the crop with the stuff on the left hand side of the frame, then you would, I think it would be a lot better. And Lloyd has sort of said, sort of stranded between abstract and clear context. Yeah, I think that Lloyd is right there, that you've got the right idea, but you need to hone in on one or the other. So yeah, so it's a nice strong start. Here we go. Right, okay. So right, we got here some frost, which I like the look of. Yeah, really, I think, again, this is the time of day is right. Obviously, frost is going to be in the morning, so you've got that going for you. So there's a lovely sort of texture to this image. It's sort of wonderful. It's got this kind of frosty thing. It was a strong frost outside this morning as well, so it's like a kind of which didn't do any favors for my broccoli. There you go. I sort of looking at this, I think it's very similar to the previous image, where you've got this grass stem and what looks like old kind of maybe thistle heads or something like that, or actually moss probably on the right hand side. And what I find is somewhat, just ever so slightly detracting, is this border on the side. There's that dark thing where the panel ends and the next one starts. Simon, if you on the there is a list that we put up. There's a Google Drive link that we put up every month in the Mighty Networks page, which you can upload to there. And that's where we can get. So if you're new to the channel or membership, then that's kind of where they go up. We do this once a month, and the link will go up in the next couple of days for the next round. I find that piece on the left is again sort of detracting. So I would like to see you kind of focus on just a little bit tighter, and you've got lovely textures, lovely colour. I think your exposures are great. All the lights. It's lovely. It just needs to be tighter. I think that you're probably trying to include maybe a little bit too much, and that may be a lens choice or something like that. But do think about what you have to work with. The more that I look at this image, the warmer it's getting for me, which it seems an odd thing to say, but I really do like what's coming through here. And yeah, maybe just a tighter crop. I think that might be so really good. But yeah, the light is lovely and everything is really fantastic. All right, okay, so doggies, right? So we've talked about black labs in the past here on the channel, and I think here is the thing, and I can sort of see, I see where you're going with this. I see the idea that that you're looking to bring this dog in and make it a more of an abstract shape. Especially black labs, the way that the sheen on their coat plays with black and white. Now, one of the things that is troubling me with this particular image is that this dog's nose is in focus and not the eyes. If you're going to do that sort of thing, if you're going to be very unusual with the focus point, then you need to make it more pronounced. You need to really go to town on it. You need to push that and make it completely obvious that this is not a mistake, but this is something you've done on purpose. Because at the moment, it feels like it's a mistake. It feels like your focus point is incorrect. The focus in this kind of image, we feel like it wants to be in our eyes. It's not a private Facebook group. There is a this might be because there's a lot of patrons recently, new patrons. There is a link that I put up every month. So if you go back through the previous Patreon posts, you'll see that there's a new link every month where you can upload images to these critiques, and there'll be a new one coming out soon. So it's part of, if you are here, it's because you are part of somebody who can submit. It may be that you've joined recently, so you didn't see where to submit images. So looking at this, I think the eyes, you really want to be focusing on the eyes. I think that's probably the standout thing for me, is that the eyes would like to be in focus. I'm going to guess that, seeing as the blacks on this, or the blacks, or the shadow, are all fairly equal, that you've gone for this as a stylistic choice, which can work. But if you're going to do that, then yeah, those eyes need to be bang in focus. And given that this dog has sort of orangey, yellowy kind of eyes, I would try and light them quite a lot. You got a softbox up here. Maybe bring it down just slightly, so you're throwing more light into the iris. Yeah, the iris of the retina of the dog. So you're really punching those eyes, and then I think it can be quite striking, especially with the contrast with the black and white. All right. Okay, so we got, now I did a quick flick through earlier, and I think this is our friend Mr. Charles. Hello, Mr. Charles. Lovely. So yes, it was a snowy winter scene. There is so John, there is a I see. This is a weird thing. There's you've subscribed, you're not a member. I wonder. Oh, I know why there's so many people in the chat, because this is live. Oh, I know. Yeah. So basically, what's happening is here that if you are a member of the Patreon community or the channel membership supporter, then you get a chance to submit an image to this. That's what it is. Okay, I understand why, because this has gone live, so it's not a private only link. But yes, there we go. So what we got here is a lovely sort of, street scene. Yes, this is a street scene, but I told you my brain is all over the place. Lovely sort of coastal scene. The light I feel it's kind of the right sort of day, but it feels flat. I don't know, maybe this is a winter thing, that because of the low, the low arc of the light during the winter, that it tends to give a bit of a contrasty sort of feel. And this kind of echoes back to some of the worst critiques I ever received at photo school, which is that an image was flat yet contrasty, which at the time I was like, what the hell are you talking about? Pupils is the right word. Yes, thank you, John. So yeah, it's the light, it's the right level, but it's just, there's something that's kind of sort of I think it's because of the time of year. The light itself is inherently blue, even though it's kind of like it's low in the sky, that the light has a cold quality to it. And of course, if you warmed this image up, it would feel sort of weird, because snow and warmth and stuff don't really go together. But maybe what you want to do is go the opposite direction and be quite cool in your approach to the oh god, all the puns are coming through. Russell, it's probably because I'm in a odd room today. It's not my usual recording space. I'm afraid the acoustics here are not particularly great. The one of the things that I kind of look at it, is that aside from the light thing, I think your composition it's interesting, because you sort of got like a little split. There's two things that kind of jump out for me. One is the this stick, whatever you want to call it, on the left hand side, that's kind of going through the foreground and into that sort of breakwater thing. That I'm finding that kind of distracting. And then this yellow sign on the right hand side, which I can't make out. I don't know what it sort of says here. But that is really, it's pulling my eye away from everything that I want to be looking at. This wonderful looking house with the observation tower, all that sort of stuff. It's really a case of, looking in the foreground for these things and sort of getting rid of them. And Peter's made a fair point. The building itself is competing with the nature. I don't mind that kind of thing so much. I think that's a nice bit of composition, because these days most people do live in these environments. But I think if you got rid of those two elements in the foreground that are dealing with it, or messing us up, and a little bit of just a change in composition would sort that out. And then I think the light, I can't quite put my finger on it, but there's something the light doesn't do for me. This might be a case where I think maybe black and white would be, I think that black and white would be an interesting look on this. Maybe just try it out and see what we come with. Right. Okay. Ooh, like a bit of a. So from the. I was going to say, I feel like that was West Coast. I don't know for some reason, but now we're back in New York. So we've got a lovely eagle, and this is Empire State, if I'm not mistaken. Or was it the Chrysler building? One of the people will tell me in the comments. I think it's the Chrysler, but yes, the Chrysler building, sorry. I shall go back and read up. I like there's some interplay here going on. The thing that kind of, now that I sort of look at it, that sort of bothers me is that the composition feels a little bit wrong. It feels like it's very central, but moving slightly to the left, whereas you've got this wonderful diagonal line, and I'm going to hazard a guess, is this the New York Public Library or somewhere like that? I don't know, I've never been to New York, so I don't know. But you've got that wonderful diagonal at this kind of more classical style, frontage of the building. Then you have what I think is quite a modern building in the mid-ground of this Gloucester still, and then the Art Deco-ness of the Chrysler. I don't know. Somebody said it's a composite. I'm going to guess that it's. I'm going to go with the fact that it's real life. Okay, and I feel if you kind of moved things around, so this doesn't matter if it's Grand Central Station. Okay, let's assume for a second that these are all shot in situ, right? That it is the same. It is one place rather than worrying about the whether it's composite or not. Is that the composition? You have that diagonal, then you got the upright, and then you got the eagle, right? And they all feel like they're kind of jammed in together. That there's nothing, that they're sort of mushed. If you move around a bit, if you change your position just a bit, so you're using the pieces in a more balanced way. You've got this eagle down the front, you've got the sweep of that architrave, not the architrave, the banister kind of thing. You've got these lights at the bottom. All of them are interesting, but I feel that this image hasn't made the best use of them. I think somebody's mentioned about the cropping out the lights down the bottom. That was Russell. Yeah, actually, I think that could be an idea. But I think the thing that kind of when you look at this, I think you've seen it. Whoever's photographed this has recognised a good idea. You've got sort of levels of the image, but it just I think that composition wants to be. I think there's more here. I think you've recognised there's a photograph, but there is more to it, man. There is more for you to discover here in this image. It could be image stacking. It could be all sorts of things, Ted. But yeah, this is kind of one of the things. It's like the fundamental sort of feel I hear. I think is that the composition is letting this idea down. So there we go. All right. Okay. Oh, complete change of pace. Complete. So we've got here. Yes, a Moody quiet, because obviously we know it's misty. It's so quiet. Now this is a great point about looking at the tiny details in an image, and there we go, Michael. So he's saying it's not stacked and stuff like that. So this is the thing. So we don't worry too much about the technicalities of images unless that's specifically the issue, because I think we will find that we end up focusing too much on that rather than the core aspects of the image. So with this image, talking about sort of the technicalities, I feel that sort of from a yeah, I was going to say actually Russell's got a good point. It's a nice composition. It's lovely. The mood is right. The exposure is great. I think the treatment of the black and white is good. The composition, I think, looking at this, because it is so symmetrical, there's one of two things. If you came down lower, so this feels like it's photographed at sort of head height. If you came down to sort of like waist or knee height, that you may get more of a reflection of those lime trees. I think they're lime trees or something in the background. And so have more of a harmony, so like a sort of a split down the middle. And those, yeah, and I was going to sort of talk about the stick in the middle in a second, is that this, that you end up more of a symmetrical composition. If you can't do that, then as people have pointed out, the reflection in the middle doesn't feel like it's one or the other. So move your viewpoint slightly up, so it's quite clear that you've cut off the reflection and focus maybe on more on the more on this empty sky to give us this moody, sort of quiet sort of feel. And that, yeah, unfortunately, that's that stick that is sticking up there. Obviously, it's the other side of the river, so you can't physically go and move it. And this would be a case for, I think, yeah, sort of cloning it out, just tidying up that thing. I wouldn't go overboard with tidying up the thing so it's completely devoid of things. I find that's too much. But that stick is extremely competitive within the image. And I find it a little bit little bit distracted. But I love the moodiness. I love that moodiness. And of course, when we zoom out like this, there we go. So there's the whole thing. Sorry, I do apologise. It's because I clicked on it and I'm looking at the chat in this sort of thing. So this, it's I feel that we're still kind of it's. Actually, I do apologise. I'm so sorry. I've been looking at this and things. So I'll recant my thing about the cropping because it's now out here. I think the stick comment still goes, but now that I'm looking out like this, it is a lot less a lot less of an issue with the crop. It's because I have when I'm in Bridge, and then when I click to get the chat window up, it zooms in just a scooch. So it's kind of it cropped off a little bit. Okay. All right. Now that's better. You see. There we go. Yeah, see, that's going to look good. All right. So let's try that again. There we go. All right. Okay. So now we're back. Right. Okay. So, right. So again, lots of changes. And we'll take my my mistake in the previous thing as a good example of how an image can change when you see the bigger picture. So I did that on purpose, or pretend I did it on purpose. Yeah, so here we go. So so a completely different approach to what is actually quite a similar environment. You know, it's a winter's sort of woodish countryside scene and stuff like that. I like this blurry kind of sort of feel. I have a feeling with this. Have you used Flash on this? Are you doing some slow sync Flash or second curtain drag, or whatever you want to call it, wherever you are? Looking at this, I like the approach. I like the fact that you have tried something different. And kudos for you, man, for doing this, or woman. So I say man. I grew up in South Africa, and it's a kind of a hey man, you know, kind of thing. And what I would like to see with this one, next time you try this, I think it's outstanding, is to jump around a lot more. Right? Make the whole thing like a big smear, right? Really kind of, you know, sort of try and play with it a bit more. I think somebody said about reflection. I think that there's possibility of reflection here. Maybe out of a train window or something like that. But yeah, I think, you know, there's this. I think this is a good example of you know, when people look at a scene that we would knee-jerk towards photographing in a certain way and try something different. And I think what you've tried here is great. I really like it. Excuse me. I'm not that fussed about the reflection, if that's it, because it's part of this abstractness. It's kind of cool. Yeah, I'd like to see more of you try more of this kind of stuff. All right. Excuse me. All right. So speaking about reflections, so we got the sun on the water here and stuff like that. So Cliff Webb, I think, you know, he's getting so upset. So we go. Right. So here we go. We got. You know, a seascape with this kind of lovely patination on patination seems to be a word for today, on the sand going out and stuff like that. And I think, you know, earlier we talked about the image with the tree, not the tree, the house on the side of the seashore. We talked about color temperature, and this I feel is also a good example of where I think the color temperature is slightly wrong. This image, and maybe this is because I did this video recently where we talked a lot about color, but my background, you know, certainly growing up, you know, all the manuals, all the magazines and stuff we used to read, a lot of the color was often very saturated. It looks hugely saturated, and I think this is an image which would kind of bear taking this. You have an abstract quality in the sand, and it could be reduced to something extremely strong, with maybe some actually in-camera filters. So if you get some Lee filters or something like that, or even bits of cellophane, you know, in front of the camera, you know, try them out. You don't need to be in Photoshop or Lightroom and play with these things. You know, you can try them out. If I know you, if you don't want to go and buy very expensive, you know, cock-end filters and stuff like that, you can buy old sheets of gel from either from eBay, or if there's a local theatre near to you or something like that, ask them what they do with their gel sheets when they're what's called burnt out. Okay, so I used to work in a theatre and we used to use gel sheets in park cans, because of the nature of, you know, they're on and they're off, and eventually the colours bleed out of the gels because of the heat of the lamps and stuff like that. And we used to throw the gels away because they're no good. So if you can go to you know, a theatre and ask them for some old gels or something, see what they got. But this, I think, would really benefit from being maybe warm, you know, or if you want to go to completely opposite, make it super cold, really like bold blues and stuff like that. I think, you know, it's great that you've seen the image. But yeah, I feel that it needs a little bit more. It needs either sort of some warming up or some cooling down, or playing with the colour just a little bit. But I do like it. I like the way you also you've handled the exposure there. It's pretty good. Right. Okay. Right. Aeroplanes, and this is not New York. Oh, LA. I don't know. See, I'm just second guessing here. Of all these places, I don't know. Somebody's going to tell me it's like, you know, London or something, which it's not. So here we go. So interesting. You know, we talked about colour. I'm so pleased that we're seeing some interesting colour today, because obviously we've got the colour is balanced for the daylight outside, and then you have the weird colours that airlines choose to use. I don't know why. Could be Chicago. Yeah, maybe. Yeah. You know, why it's Congo blue. Congo blue was always my favourite colour in City. Anyway, so we've got this sort of thing. So we've got this guy in the mask, and he's sitting there next to the window and things like that. Now, the guy in the mask and the window, I'm not entirely sure what the relationship between the two is. Okay, so we've got some NYC. Okay. I get the colour, and I get that you're trying to add some foreground interest and stuff like that, which I get it. I think this guy's not quite enough. I don't know if that makes sense. I think, you know, and I've mentioned it a few times in the past, you've got that William Eggleston with the drink picture, where there's actually quite a lot of the interior of the plane. And not so much of the outside. Now, obviously, because the focus of the image is on the inside. This one, the focus is, for me, on the cityscape outside. How's it, Hans? How you doing, man? And the guy on the inside, I'm not feeling that he's. I don't feel that he wants to be part of this image. Yeah, I think this would be a stronger image just with him gone. And if he is a you know, if he's a friend of yours, then just say, look, you know, John, do you mind just moving out of the way quickly, or make more of the image about him. You know, to make him more of a thing. We've talked about this in the past, where there's this kind of people in the left, or people on the edge of the image, intruding in when they're not quite of this thing and stuff like that. And you know, so it's one of the other. You know, either include him and some more of the interior of the building, not the building, of the airplane, or get rid of him. One or the other, and then make more. And I know this is tricky because you're not sitting in the window seat, but maybe make more of the interior of the plane with this thing. Because if it is NYC, which I think most people did, I have you know, when I used to fly down to Florida and stuff, I'd look out the window and see New York in the distance and stuff, because of the route would take us past there. And that's kind of, I think what you were looking at is this kind of, you know, using the window frame as a frame. You know, it's kind of one of those things. All right. Okay, so some trees. These are not trees. These look like aloes. Aloes from, you know, the big cactusy sort of things. Anyway, so lovely. And this has been shot on film. How's it film? Saying I can recognise film because you win the prize for today for dust on your negative. Sorry, there's little hairs and things like that. So this is kind of my thing. I love film. I love the image. I think if you were going to do this sort of thing, maybe again tighten up the crop, make it a little bit more. These guys are going to be central. They need to be central. All right. If they're going to have some wonky movement, they need to be wonky movements. This feels like it's not quite a one or the other. I also don't know if this is a native square format or if you've cropped it. If it is native or you've cropped it, these guys need to be in the middle, or off. At the moment they're one or the other, which is a bit of a shame. And seeing as you've shot film, I'm going to give you just a little couple of heads ups here about when you've scanned this. First of all, you've scanned it. Maybe you've scanned it yourself, or it's gone to a lab or something. But there are hairs on this negative, which in a sky that is uniformly one tone like this, and when you shoot film, you need to be so careful, right? Get rid of those hairs. Cloning them out. If you are scanning these negatives yourself, you need to get yourself some compressed air. Give it a little burst. That will sort you out a little bit. And if you're processing film yourself, try and make sure that wherever you're processing, or more importantly, where you're drying your film, is as dust free as possible. So there we go. Mr. B, if one of the guys in the comments could just sort of point you in the direction where you can submit and give them things, because otherwise I'll have to go in and over again the whole time. So one of the quick ways of seeing if there's dust and stuff like that on your images, obviously after you've actually scanned them in Photoshop, is to make a curve with make a curved layer in Photoshop that has a curve that does this, like a little sawtooth, and that actually shows you where all the dust is, which is quite cool. So because it gives you, and that's the problem when you have this kind of image where there's a lot of neutral or tonality. Those dust things, especially this hair on the right hand side, they stick out like a sore thumb. Also, just ever so slightly, just watch your crop on the left hand side. There's a little bit of density change at the top, and that's probably because you're quite close to the edge of where it's, you know, the actual frame on the negative, and stuff like that. But apart from that, no, sorry, I've spent so much time talking about the film stuff. Yeah, I think, you know, I like what you've done here. I like you've seen. I would like to see this kind of maybe a little bit more simple. You know, focus in on these things individually. See what you can find, because they are such interesting objects, and especially cactuses and stuff, and they lend themselves so nicely to black and white, I think. There we go. All right, okay. Now this is interesting because I've zoomed in there and it's like boom, and it's like that. So we've got here very interesting, you know, sort of street scene. You know, the guy walking his dog and stuff like that. You know, and it's interesting, you know, when we talk about, we look at the photographs, that so often it's not an exposure that's the problem. It's not so much of other things that are the problem. It's usually the cropping, and it's usually the way that you have composed the photograph, which is probably why, if you do like a little Google search, then composition in photography is kind of usually the most searched for thing. What I kind of find is looking at this image, you know, you've got the man with the dog, and there's a little bit of focus is a real issue, but that's a technical sort of thing. What I kind of feel is that there's too much on the left, where the street signals, I don't know what you would call them in UK, like a traffic light, in America, traffic lights and stuff like that. There's too much of that stuff going on the left-hand side. You've got what looks like a hot dog vendor, I'm going to guess it's a hot dog vendor with the umbrella. All those things, because they're in the shadow, they're extremely distracting. They're like, wow, just look at me, look at me, look at me, right? Whereas the man with the dog, he's what we want to look at. So move the camera this way. You've got what looks like a wonderful wall that's curving off that right, you know, off to the right hand side, and you know, sort of John and SH have sort of, I think, said similar things. Move them in, you know, move it off to the right. You know, it's like I feel that, you know, what's going on in the background with the hot dog and that stuff. I mean, we don't care about that, man. Somebody said the dog butt picture. we care about the dog's butt. Let's make that more of the thing. Let's get rid of all the distracting crap in the background. Let's not. I think somebody said about using the exposure brush to reveal some detail. I think that's going in the wrong direction. That's making the image even more competitive. We want to actually kind of make it less. We want to focus in on the things interesting, which is this man in his own world, walking his dog. I'm going to take a flyer and say any person who is old or older, certainly grey-haired, who lives in a city centre has probably lived there for a long time. So maybe, you know, he's thinking about all what's going on and stuff like that. But I think the composition here is what's lacking. I think you want to go to the left, you know, and hi Diane. That's actually yeah, I think Diane, you really want to move that camera to the left. Britt, so you're bringing the guy into the left hand side of the frame, and we're seeing more on this kind of curve of this wall on the right. So there we go. Yeah. All right. Ooh. Oh, there we go. Zooming in and out. So you guys probably like this. All right. So from this, okay, right. This is totally different. This is so we got here a little bit urbex, a bit urban exploring. So we've got you know, hole in the wall and some doors and a corridor and all sorts. A very interesting image, and I would like to see more from this. Yeah, I would like to see more of this series. I think we've got a good idea going on here. I don't often sort of advocate, let's say, crazy processing like HDRs and stuff like that. This might work for this. There's I think you've got something here where the subject itself, which is this kind of broken down building and this hole in the wall and whatever's going on here, lends itself to more of a kind of funky processing. I think, you know, without it being sort of hackneyed and contrived and stuff like that. If you are able to, maybe next time when you're here, is put a figure in one of these. You know, so down, not necessarily in this doorway, but way down, maybe room number 5, you know, just a little figure. You know, if you wanted to go for the spooky element, you know, it's kind of things like that. I like the framing. I like this kind of hole in the wall, which is framing this piece. It works for the whole thing. I think, you know, it's good job, good scene. If this is who I think it is, I think you're getting a lot better. You're starting to push yourself. So yes, it's a good stuff here. I would be interested to see more of this style of image from this period. But yeah, I think if you really wanted to mess with people's minds, put in tiny figures, just somewhere, or a hand, also something that when people look at it, they go, "Oh, this is really, oh my god!" This is like, yeah, play with people's minds. All right, ooh, look at that, and then something jumped in there. Whoops, there we go. Okay, all right, okay, all right. So here we got. Oops, sorry. No, come back. There we go. All right, so we've got some sort of gannets and stuff like that. Now, it's interesting that, you know, the theme of tonight was composition, and it's kind of yeah, just a foot, like just like a foot there, or do a double exposure, something like that. Yeah, so we're looking here. You've got these birds in the seascape. Now, what I'm kind of feeling here is that I can't actually decide what it is that you're trying to photograph. What is it that what is it I'm supposed to be looking at? Is it the birds, or is it the rocks and there's the sea, you know, behind? It's one of those things where, again, an aperture choice would have kind of helped with this. If you had a very shallow depth of field, that would help separate out what it is. If it is supposed to be the rocks in the sea, then I think the birds are a huge distraction. Because generally speaking, there's a huge generalization that we feel that like animals and people and stuff like that tend to be the thing that we are drawn towards as a subject, whereas static items, so rocks and things, tend to not be the same thing. I do think, you know, you've got the right idea, you're getting there. That, you know, there's some you're filling in a little bit of foreground with those twigs and stuff like that. But then it's kind of, I'm losing it. I'm not quite sure where we're trying to go with this. Also, the birds, because they're black, are not doing you any favours. I know you can't. Can we just wheel in the white birds, please, or the grey birds, or the colourful birds? You know, it is struck because they are, because of the nature of their plumage. To paraphrase a Monty Python sketch, yeah, they're going inky black. So I think, you know, I'd like to see you kind of either decide if it's one or the other. What are you photographing here? You know, I think you got the right idea. It's not an awful photograph, but it does lack a bit of focus. I think that is kind of probably my biggest. My biggest issue with this particular one. So next time you confront with a scene like that, to try and decide exactly what it is that you're trying to photograph and how best you can highlight that. So there we go. All right. Okay. Oh, okay. Right. So I think this may be from the same theme. All right, Mr. B. So very quickly, yeah. So. To submit an image for the image critique, either if you are a member of the Patreon supporters, which there is a link in many of the videos, you get to submit an image, or if you are a channel supporter, which is through the membership channels on YouTube, that you get you get membership to like a private sort of place where we all sort of hang out and chat, and you can also upload images there. So there we go. So right, so we've gone from you know, the doorway to, I'm going to guess is the same, to now the toilet. Fair enough. Right, okay. So here we go. I think, yeah. And I thought, so, it's fed. Hi, Pixel Drama. Thank you ever so much. That's awesome. You are a man. Sorry, I said man. You are a person of rare taste. That, yeah, I like this. I'm sort of seeing. I think Sven. Whereas previously, when you had the hole in the wall, the hole was very much dominant. It served a purpose. I think with this one, you're kind of. I think you've chickened out a little bit. Either you're going to have to pull back a little bit more and show us only. Thank you, her photo. Thank you ever so much. I want to show you only the hole in this cracked window frame, or pull back and kind of have more of the detail, but then the focus, which currently is on the window frame, on the toilet, right? So the whole thing is out of focus, and then the toilet is in focus. Yeah, I sort of trying. It's things like this, you know. I do like environments like this for photography, but often, you know, we've talked about this in the past where there is this idea of letting the subject carry the image, and we can't let the subject carry the image. Metropa, thank you ever so much. Yeah, we can't let the subject just always carry the image, because often that's not enough. And often when I do kind of one-to-ones with people, that there is a theme like that people go, I am just going to photograph this interesting thing, and because it's interesting, I don't have to worry about it too much. So there we go. All right. So Sven, yes, I like that. I would like to do that. And this, I think, is pushing you a little bit. It was good. If you can get back there, just go back there. Go back there. Go back. Come back. Somebody has been looking at my. Somebody's been looking at my work. Okay. Lovely. So it's lovely kind of sort of thing. With this, okay, so there's a lot. So this feels like it's a shopping mall. And there's a couple of things that immediately I really like. I like the shapes. I like the abstractness of this. I like a lot of the things in here, but then there's a lot I really don't like. I'm sorry, man. This is okay. The banister at the front, the escalators, the curve of the thing, the light, the little kind of LED, neon, kind of whatever you want to call them, lights in the walls, awesome. The stuff on the right hand side, the sort of seating area with the geometric floor lights, okay, nice. The stuff in the top left, those windows and excuse me, the windows and the, oh my god, the don't slip sign. Let's let the side down, man. It was going so well. It just went. But yeah, this is the kind of thing. This is where you see things. My gut feeling with it is possibly, I think a square crop might have helped you a little bit more here. The stuff on the right hand side, the odd geometric planters and the seating area. So I'm kind of fine with that. And I think if you cropped square, you could have this interplay, very clean, very kind of, let's say, 1970s futuristic feel, coupled with that stuff. But the stuff in the top left-hand corner is so out of keeping with the rest of the image that's all I can see. And now that I've also, once you see that yellow don't slip sign, that's all you're going to see. It's unfortunately, it is such a is such a nightmare, but well done for seeing good, interesting geometric shapes. There's if you are interested in this kind of photography, these shapes, two photographers from the 1950s and 60s, Ezra Stoller and Julius Sherman. So I'll just write them in there. Stoller and Julius Sherman. There we go. Right, those guys. Look at those guys. Learn from them, because if you're into this kind of architecture sort of thing, they will just go, wow, awesome. Right. So really, really nice. But yeah. Sort of checking things out. I do miss shopping malls. I love shopping malls. But here in Suffolk Land, where I live, we don't have any shopping. Come back. There we no. Bridge used to be good, and now it's just rubbish. Okay, so okay, all right. Okay, so I love this. I love this building. As regular viewers of the channel will know that I love architectural photography, and so if I love architectural photography, I'm sorry I come down hard on you because it's easy to see little issues with it. This building, amazing. What a lovely patination on this kind of pixeled thing. So immediately with this, because it's peeled, and John has picked up on it already, this needs to be straight. This needs to be proper verticals, which is a problem. Now, obviously, traditionally, you would either photograph this with a large format camera with some planes, or you could do it with a tilt shift lens, or we could do what most people do is go into Lightroom and fix the verticals. When you're taking these kind of photographs, try as much as you possibly can to try and get those verticals vertical, especially when you're dealing with an image like this, which is all about geometric shapes. So how many people have said in the comments, just boom, off the top, it's not straight. That unfortunately is the thing when you're dealing with these kind of images, that we are so quick to pick up in our minds and our guts specifically, that these things are not straight. So do check on the straightness. It'd be interesting to see this at a different time of day. I feel that your lighting on this, whenever it's being lit, is a bit flat. It would probably benefit from maybe a struggle, the light kind of not being so even on it, to give it a bit more form and texture, because I can see that we're looking at a corner of a building, but it's not immediately obvious because the light is reasonably flat. So try getting it at a time of day when there's more shape to the building. And also, while we're talking about cropping, right down at the bottom, there's just the top of a street sign thing coming through. So just be aware of that, because it's kind of just. I did mean, Julius. Sure, my text, my typing and everything has just been. It's been awful recently. I do apologise. It is Julius Shorman. Did I say Sherman? Right. If I said Sherman, then feel free to come around and give me a slap, because that's actually trying to do three things at once. It's terrible. But yeah, that sort of thing. And anybody who does like photographing this thing, yeah, if you're going to be like this, it needs to be straight up and down. All right. Boop. Okay, lots of colour. I like colour. All right, so looking at this is kind of one of those. This is kind of one of those very strong images, and with no disrespect to you, because this can often sound like it comes across as kind of like, oh, that's nice sort of thing. This feels like one of the photographs that I used to come across, and those of a certain age will know what I'm talking about. The image that you come across in the old manuals for cameras and how, basic photographic books that taught you, very basic sort of things. And, be like, oh, you're talking about shadow and color and stuff. Now, one of the things here, this is so red. This is red, which is lovely. And it's so red because you've got the contrast in here with the shadows and the black and the stuff like that. And that immediately makes any colors stronger. Sorry, excuse me. Again, long-time viewers of the channel will know that I like to eat almonds when I'm doing this sort of thing, which is bad because I get almond dust in my throat. I've got to say, right, everybody needs to put their hands up and say, cropping. This wants to come up just a little bit. The window frame is too high in the frame. It wants to come down, right? It's a heavy thing. It wants to be at the bottom. If you have visual things that are heavy, and this is a heavy visual thing, if it's at the top of the frame, they will feel like they're constantly wanting to fall down, right? If you put the heavy things at the bottom of the frame, it's going to make the frame the frame itself feel a little bit more weighted, feel a little bit more settled. So, because we are just studying this, it wants to be lower down. Diane feels it's too tight. I don't think necessarily it's too tight is the wrong thing. I feel that the frame itself is in the wrong part of the frame. I think it wants to be down. I don't mind the black patch so much. It gives weight to the color. You know, Alex Webb and photographers of that ilk use shadows quite handily, and those shadows are helping this red really boom pop out. So yeah, so it's always kind of thing. That, I mean, that's always a thing, Steve. You know, if you are finding that there are elements that you can't get rid of and stuff like that, find a way that you can include them. You know, I feel you said there's a weird air conditioner unit that is just rubbishing the photo. See if you can include it. Give it a try. You know, rather than trying to have a lesser picture for excluding it, maybe there is a stronger picture for including the thing that you think that if you exclude will make a stronger picture. Something like that. But there we go. Oh, see, this is kind of fun because like we zoom in a little bit. It's a key, and then we zoom out. Okay, right. All right, so we've got a key and a shell and a seashore. So a nice little interesting, a nice little interesting still life. Looking at this, I'm going to guess this wasn't a found thing. That the chain wasn't just there. If it was, then you know, forgive me. I'm in kind of two minds about this. That one, it's like there's not a heap of things going on, but in the second, in the other part of my mind, I find it kind of interesting. I don't know why, sort of thing, and sometimes it is tricky. I think, you know, so I think so. Russell, so John is talking here, you know, about the sky, and this is kind of, I think, you know, we talked about context, we talked about you know, how images all kind of fit together and stuff, and it feels like there is that sky. The top right is a little bit bright, but it's somewhat balanced by the shell and the image, the rock in the foreground. What I'm kind of struggling to see is somebody mentioned in here connection. I think it was Lloyd. Yeah, what is going on here? What is the point of this photograph? It's not the light, because the light is not a thing. It's not the composition, because this composition is not a thing. And I do apologise if you felt that you spent some time trying to work on this composition. I appreciate the work that you've put in, and I think where you're going with it, but it's not hitting the mark. I'm not picking up any signals from it, and we've, you know, I've talked about it in the past where we think about, if you need to explain an image, if you need to tell people what it is that you're trying to do or whatever, then the image is kind of not working. You know, because we want to see and be able to pick in a story, and I think Dion just mentioned this in the chat, that I'm not seeing, I don't want to say the point of this, but I feel that you have an idea here that you're working towards, that if you were sitting next to me, you would talk me through it. And then I might go, oh, okay, cool, blah, 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 blah. But that's the point, you haven't communicated it clearly enough to me. So maybe take this idea, go back, think about what it is that you want to say, and see if you can communicate it clearly to me through the medium of photography, rather than having to write an essay. about it. But thank you for submitting. All right. Okay, so all right, so this is the first. I think is this the first portrait of the evening? Hey. Okay, so let me just. Sorry, I'm just gonna get a link for Mr. B. Patreon. There we go. I'm going to give that. Okay. All right. So we got here. All right. So this is the first portrait of the evening, with some interesting lighting. Okay, we got it right. Okay. Okay. Yeah. That's right. Yeah. Okay. There we go. All right. Okay. All right. So we got here. So a nice sort of an interesting portrait. And of course now, apart from the fact that that I like architectural photography, I am a portrait photographer by trade. So, whoops. No, okay. So I might get into things. So immediately, I think one of the things that leaps to mind here, that a lot of other people may tell you this when they look at your photographs, and specifically this one, they may say there's no separation. They're talking about kickers and hairlights and stuff like that. Okay, whatever. I don't mind. You can. I use separation occasionally, mostly for family stuff, but for my own stuff, not so much. One light, and you've got with the background and stuff, so you can get away with one light. You don't necessarily need to do that sort of thing. Having said that, you have an exceptionally small modifier on this light for a half body. I can see it in her eyes. She's got very tiny catch lights. So either you've got like a 1x1 softbox, like a 1 meter by 1 meter, or you're using a beauty dish that's quite far away from her, or something like that. But for an image like this, I would probably go back to my 1.5. And sorry, here in the UK obviously we use metric, but my 1.5 meter octobox. So I don't know what that is in inches, 60 inches, something like that. Because nice soft light, you can control it, and you can light background at the same time with it, and that would also make it just a bit more of a wraparound light, that would also kind of make her eyes just a touch brighter. The problem with people who have this kind of this kind of skin tone and have brown eyes is that those brown eyes need a lot of light in them. They need to be boom, like smacked with light, because it just the iris absorbs all that light. So you really want to, because you want to make the eyes pop. In this situation though, because of the tone of the image, it's not so much of a crucial thing, but just something to bear in mind. Her actual pose is fine. We've got a nice sort of outline of her face. It's not breaking. If you're being overly pedantic about it, I would probably move her from this just to a little bit more like that. It's a tiny thing. And then also her hand. That hand, I'm going to come around and I'm going to chop it off. Right? It's so obvious. That's the problem. It's a thing of dominant color. It's a dominant brightness in an image that's dark, and it's detracting from her eye. Her shoulder's not so much of an issue. Into Grey, thank you ever so much for supporting. There should be an email that comes to you to get the link for uploads. We do this once a month, and what have you. So brown eyes are special. You know, my son has brown eyes, and like when he was born, I think, oh my god, now I'm gonna have to blast him with flash. It's like, because I've got blue eyes, and blue eyes just because of the nature of the pigmentation, they're a lot brighter. But brown eyes, especially if you're going to do something moody, you don't want the eyes to go black, because that's the thing. You don't want the eyes to go black. They need a bit more boom boom. So anyway, so we're talking about the hand. So what happens is, we can see, obviously I'm wearing a black outfit. If I do this, right, you've got my face and you've got my hand. right? So your eyes jumping up and down between the two of them. Shoulders are not too much of an issue. You can tone that down a little bit in post if you wanted to. But yeah, that hand is. I would think that hand wants to come away. I know she's sort of holding. What she did? She's sort of holding her shawl like this. Bring that hand around, right? Make it and maybe kind of just lift her up, or rather than her doing this, I know you can't really sort of see, but if you get her to sit down and put her hand on a bench, right, and then and it feels sort of turn, but sort of thing. I don't know, sort of thing. But you want to just to elongate the neck. I can do a whole video about posing for portraits if you'd like. Hands up, everybody. Like it anyway. But yeah, but apart from that, I think it's nice. You got some movement in the hair, which is good. What you can do if you do want to light her face just a little bit is get somebody really close, like literally just on the edge of the frame with a. Oh, actually, I've got one in a second. Hold on a second. Right. Something like this. Oh, he says, here's one I made earlier. Right, so just a little bit of kicker back in here because you've got a bit more control about that. There we go. All right. So there we go. That's Elastilite Tri-Light. But if you are super cheap, just go down to your local art supply and get a piece of Fomex. Artcore Fomex board. And they're usually, sort of white, fairly solid core. Bits of cardboard that are white. That would look pretty cool. There we go. If anybody lives in America, if you can just put into the thing, is it Michael's? Is the art supply store? Something like that. But yeah, those got foam core board is what you're looking for, and buy some black as well because you could do negative fill with that. All right. More masks, but that is the world we live in. Okay, all right. So some masks. So this feels like this kind of street, and you are outside. You're photographing through at this person who's looking through the window. Quite interesting. It's sort of an odd thing to say because again, a lot of street photography I feel wants to work as a sequence. It wants to work as part of a bigger picture. And this kind of feels like that for me. There is a thing, I must say, I am, kind of like, things about the thing we don't mention aside, sort of various ideas about, vaccinations and stuff like that. And whether masks work or not is kind of, I don't really want to get into it. But there is a thing that these masks are now prevalent in many parts of the world, and for many people, have given an opportunity, possibly, to engage in, let's call it sort of neo-noir sort of feels of images. And it's still kind of relatively new that I think you could like with an image like this, you could run with the processing and do like a cross processing thing, or do some color shifts or something like that to change it up. Now Bobcat 67 is saying that he would like to see her face and expression, and I part of me agrees with that, and part of me goes I do, but part of me also goes, I'd like to see this because of the nature of the image, that it's with a reflection, these streaks of light that have a kind of futuristic-y sort of feel, coupled with the mask and coupled with her outfit, which if we got rid of the Arctic Canada goose thing, I forget what it's called on her sleeve here, is timeless. It could be, well, I say timeless, it could be, post-future, or sort of futuristic, and that's kind of where I sort of feel that we could go with these sort of things. That it's a thing. I think Lloyd has just mentioned sort of crop, and I, at the risk of sounding like we're going into some sort of theme about cropping, Um, a landscape, because of the nature of these lights, might work actually quite interestingly. Yeah, I think somebody's mentioned there's some dead space at the top and the bottom. I think that's possible. If I do street, which is very rare, I generally tend to shoot landscape, mostly because that's kind of obviously how we are seeing the world. But I would be interested to see this as a sequence of things. Maybe you could do a series of images where these people are kind of, where we're only focusing on the eyes, and that's kind of the thing. I think, you know, somebody mentioned about her eyes being expressive. Given the nature of the background and the fact she's wearing darker clothes and stuff like that, the eyes are the only thing in the image that we can really hang our hats on, that they are the only thing. Yeah. Well, you never know, John. Maybe we'll look back at this and go, oh, remember how happy we were then? Who knows? Anyway, that's why we don't talk about it, because it's just... life is just so dreary. Anyway. All right. And here's a lady who's like, I don't be dreary at all. I am... Dreary is not me. So, an interesting image. I think that's fair to say. And mostly because we've got a character who's in here. Now, what kind, you know, I talked earlier about letting the, you know, often we see something and we see an image and we think, that's amazing. All I need to do is photograph that thing, and that's a good enough image. And I think this lady here falls into that category, that we photograph it and kind of go, it's enough because the person is interesting. From a technical point of view, with one or two, like there's some lights down at the bottom that are a little bit distracting and stuff like that. It's fine. As a photograph, I don't think it's really doing anything. It's not really. It's not, again, you know, mentioned earlier about, you know, having a photograph, if you need to explain it to me and stuff like that, then it's kind of not working. It's not necessarily grabbing me, right? I think maybe if you did, if this is, again, context and sequences are so important with these kind of things. I think if you did a series of street portraits, so instead of her just kind of, she's walking along on her phone, if you stopped her and you said, may I take your photograph? And she said, oh yes, you know, right. Oh, okay, right. See, there we go, right. So somebody's just said, this is Lynn Yeager, that she's very famous and stuff like that. Now that's context, right? But if you'd said to her, may I photograph you? Right? She would kind of go, yes or no, right? But ask her, see what she says. You know, I don't know who she is, and that's kind of part of the problem, right? Is that if you don't know who these people are, then it means nothing. I can show you some photographs of some very famous South Africans, but you don't know who they are, so they don't really carry much weight, especially if they were photographs of similar style. So if you are going to do this, yeah, next time you see her, just say, look, excuse me, Miss Yeager, would you mind? Can I take your photograph? See what she does, you know. Worst she can do is say no, right? Which is easy for me to say sitting over here. But yeah, see what she comes up with. Or if you see people like this, ask them if you can just take their photo, take their portrait in the street, maybe with some flash, you know, do something a little bit different. You know, characters. There's often, you know, little photo projects where people are photographing, you know, characters that they see. Give it a try. But apart from that, it's all quite nice. Right. So, right. This is, yep. Okay, so, alright, so we got this lovely little green thing. Now, earlier I was talking about, you know, with the picture with the red, about how when you put especially primary colours against a darker background, they immediately have more zing. to them. Now, I don't know how much of this is post, if at all, but this is a good example of how our colours can be so much brighter. Right, okay. Cheers, John. Thank you ever so much for being here. It's wonderful to have you and your feedback. Yeah, I really like this. Nice colours, the lighting's really nice and stuff like that. The only thing, if I'm going to be really nitpicky, Moente, if you sign up as a patron to our Patreon, or which is here, I'll put the link in there, then you have the option to send in links. We do this once a month with the images. So we got there, yeah. So there's this little green tree, whatever it is, coming through. So lovely, so it is beautiful. There's water on there to even make it even more lovely and stuff like that. It's not just dry. It's lovely colours, and there's that little stick. And I know I hate being nitpickety, nitpickety, and there's that little stick right next to it that looks like a straw. Please get rid of it. It's, you know, just it would have taken you like a second just to pick it up and move it out of the way. Because this picture is beautiful. It's lovely. That straw. just get rid of it. It's really nice. It's simple. It's understated. It's got impact though. It's got texture. It's got loveliness. It's delicate, which is not a word I often use in photographs, but it is delicate. And that's an absolute compliment. But that straw, yeah, you know, gotta be that little straw thing. This guy over here. Oh, please make him go away. But yeah, beautiful, lovely image. Okay. And here, now I'm going to guess this may be by the same person. So Andres, yes, if you are part of the Patreon group, you may submit images. So this is lovely. I don't know if this is. I often give the benefit of the doubt. So let's say this is real. the images on here, this one with this flowers in black and white. I like the treatment. The treatment's very interesting. I think this center section of flowers that are tending more towards, let's say, zone 6, slightly zone 7, for those of us who speak zone systems, might want to be just a touch brighter. Sort of tending sort of more zone 7 than more zone 6, if you are into zones. I think just to make them stand out a little bit from the rest. So those of you who don't speak zone system, that's what Adam's zone system, blah blah blah. Zone 5 is just like a kind of a neutral grey, so like what you see on the edge roughly of the frame here, this sort of grey. Zone 6 is sort of skin tones with a little bit of highlight, and zone 7 is kind of quite highlighty, so what you'd normally see on here with some texture in it. So basically it's just a little sort of whiter. Zone 8 is quite getting into specular. 9 is super white, and then 10 is paper white. Anyway, looking at this, the composition feels a bit not right. The tonalities and stuff are lovely. I love the tonalities. Something's not right about this composition. Diane is, and I keep wanting to say Dion, but sorry, I do apologise. Diane is saying landscape. I'm not entirely sure. There is something I don't really want to kind of be one of these. Let's just move it around and sort of see how it goes all the time. There's something that's not working on this in terms of the composition. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but I would like. I think this would benefit from you going back and having another look at it and really spending some time with it. Look at it upside down. Look at it back to front. Look at it and see if it starts to speak to you a little bit more. I don't know if I can do this in Bridge. Let's see, because I think you can do it in Photoshop. Yep, there we go. See, that's now upside down. That's kind of there. That's beginning to feel like it's a little bit more got something, but that's what you've got. So if you sort of sit, that, yeah, it's still not quite right, but that feels a little bit more like there's something there than that. I don't know why. I think it's the nature of the excuse me. I think it's the nature of the subject, that they're all over the place. That then there's something not quite landing. Something in there, you know. And I'm sorry, I can't be more specific than that. But sometimes it is a case of your gut is telling you something's not quite right about it. You can't quite put your finger on it, but I'm feeling that it's the composition. There's a beard here. Oh, look at that! He's coming. Oh, there's a face. Hello. Yeah, look at this. All right, so really like in your face. Now, there's a problem with this. Apart from the fact this guy's got a really kind of like, he's got like totally in us expression. You know, he's totally into us. Which is the wrong phrase entirely, but he's really engaging with us here, is that his beanie is ever so slightly too low. Now I know this is getting into nitpickiness, is that there is such a slither, like the tiniest slither of catchlight in his eyes, that it's only just making them eye, right? I would say, if you look at this guy and kind of go, right, okay, dude, I love that. The intensity you're giving me is just amazeballs, to use a better word. But you know what would be even better, right? If you don't want to say to him, look, no, dude, can you just lift your beanie up a little bit? Just go and look down your nose at me, mofo. You know, just get him just as, say, be a little bit more arrogant, right? And he will bring his chin up. And what will happen is he will then raise his beanie and then have more catchlights in his eyes. So it's stuff like that. But again, this is easy to say after the moment, right? It's easy to look at this and kind of go, oh, you could have done this, you could have done that. Because we're not having to deal with this person. We're not having to interact with him. So it is one of those sort of things, and you get this feel the more that you kind of do this, right? You get a feel for doing these sort of things. You get a moment to know the things that next time you do this with somebody with a beanie, you'll look for the catchlight, right? And the more you do that, it'll become second nature. But yeah, so rather than saying to people, can you just move this and move that, which they generally don't quite like doing when you ask them to move bits of their clothing around. But yeah, make him say, just, you know what? Come on, that's not your war face. Give me your war face. You know, it's that kind of stuff. It's playing. It's interaction, right? And getting them to do the thing that you want them to do that improves the image without them actually knowing why it is that you're doing it. But apart from that, I think it's a really intense sort of look. I would just possibly maybe a bit of dodge and burn, and that brickwork around behind him, so we're really drawn into you know, with eyes, and maybe, you know, because of the nature of the beanie, just do a little dodge and burn there. Right. I don't know why it does this thing. Okay, so this one a little bit smaller. Okay. All right. So here we have, looks like Japan, you know, like a little, or somewhere in the Far East. You know, I sort of see their, I like the, you know, the clouds and in the mountains and the hills and stuff is really lovely. I feel the sky is somewhat lost here. I get what you're trying to. You're trying to make it feel a little bit more timeless. That you know, because obviously these things are quite old. It's, you know, it's like castles in Europe and stuff like that. They you know, we want to see them without the trappings of modern life around them, so that we have a bit more of a spiritual connection to them. Unfortunately, this sky is really bright, and that's probably because it is. It feels like it's just a blank overcast day, which is a bit of a nightmare, really, isn't it? It's so hard to do something with the light, especially when you're dealing in black and white and things of that nature. Something that you could do here, and again, it's getting a little bit more into sort of technical gymnastics and stuff like that, but you could always try either, not necessarily an HDR, because I don't particularly like HDRs, but if you did 2 exposures, so you do 1 exposure for do 3. Do 1 exposure for the building, the building and the hill, the building as well. Then do another exposure for the hills in the background, and then 1 exposure for the sky. Now, obviously, with the sky, you don't want to make it super dramatic, because that sort of takes out what you're looking for. But you do want a little bit of detail in there. I think you want a little bit of detail. That's my particular take on it. You may prefer having the whiter sky like that. And if you're going to do that, again, it's hard, because obviously we see it on a screen. And the screen, I think, just by nature of looking at an image on the screen, takes away so much from an image, especially if this was printed on like a fiber-based paper or something like that. There would be a lot more to enjoy. And I'm only seeing it like this size, because I don't know why the image is so small, but I'm only seeing it this. I think if we were to see this as a print, there would be a lot more detail, be a lot more subtlety that we sort of see in here. But I think this is one of those images that we talked about. I mentioned the zone system earlier, that if you look up like zone system printing and like old school black and white printing, that would really come alive with some sympathetic printing on it. I think that's a thing. Yeah, sympathetic printing would make this look so much nicer. Okay, a little ball with a guy, right? Okay, so we got so same photographer. I did say at the beginning of the month, if you wanted to submit more than 1 photo, that would be absolutely fine. And of course we got there's a couple of people who submitted a few. This I feel this feels like it's more of a snapshot. When I compare it with your previous image. I'm not seeing too much on this, obviously, because it's more of I don't want to say like it's a fun image, like a city image. But it does feel like it's just kind of it's something you didn't spend too much time with. I don't think you spent any huge amount of thought on it, and please excuse me if that comes across as me dismissing sort of things, but this feels more like a snapshot compared to the other one, and I think so Russell's said it makes you smile, and it did make me smile initially, and yeah, so in that regard it worked, but I don't think there's much more we could sort of critique about it. But I would like to see this guy with the little smiley face on a journey through your office. That'd be quite cool. All right, okay. So now we got just a bit more. So it looks like a cabbage, and I don't know what that is in front of you. So this kind of thing, there is, I think there's scope within, photography to photograph the things that are around us all the time, that we often dismiss as potentials for subject, as ideas for things like that. And if you look back, sort of photographers in the 1920s and stuff like that, they photographed lots of random things. Man Ray photographing the dust under his bed and all these kind of things, and go for it. We've seen tonight, all sorts of subjects of things. And it goes to show that anything can be a subject for a photograph. You know, and it doesn't need to be, doesn't need to be super arty, you know, sort of things like that. It can be just whatever that, you know, sort of floats your boat. But so often with these things, it's context and it's sequences and it's placement. If you just do a picture like this, like or the smiley face that you showed me earlier, individually you kind of go, yeah, all right, okay. As a sequence, as a story, as a narrative, as a whole series of images, then they start having a bit more context. And you've got here, which looks like it's a cabbage that's been chopped up during dinner time. Why not take a week of all the vegetables that you chop up? Just photograph all the vegetables. See what happens. At least then there's a context. And then the viewer can put them into a place in their mind. All right, okay. So I like this. This is, you know, again, we were talking earlier about quiet and you know, and I think gentle photographs. I remember somebody talking to me once about sort of gentle comedy, and I told myself, oh, I don't really get it, but I get it now. You know, there are photographs that make us. I don't think initially that they really inject anything into us. That you know, then I'm like, oh my god, I feel remarkably changed. But I look at this and I go, the contrast, the juxtaposition between the field and we call it pasture. It's not quite a pasture, but you know what I mean, right? And there's this road closed sign in the middle of a field. Now we can sort of see a little bit underneath it. Looks like the remnants of tarmac road. You know, there's that place in Pennsylvania that set fire, Centralia. You know, I put in mind of that kind of thing. Although this is not quite Silent Hill territory like there, but there's something about this. You know, I don't think this necessarily needs any more, you know, sort of fiddling, if you want to call it that. Again, I would love to see a sequence like this, and I think, you know, those of you who live in America, I don't want to say you're privileged and stuff, but America is, because of its vastness, it has a lot of this kind of stuff about it. You know, and what have you. There are things that are just lost and abandoned that you can photograph that are interesting. Whereas, certainly here in the UK, you know, things rarely get abandoned like this. They really rarely get forgotten about. And I think if you are doing this kind of thing in America or somewhere else where you're able to, Australia and South Africa and other places of that nature have similar things, that what you should do, that I certainly enjoy doing, is when you get there, don't take photographs for a little while. Just be in the environment. Be in the moment. Right, there was, like today, we went for a walk. We live on a farm, or we live in a farmhouse that's attached to a farm that's still working. And we went for a walk with the farmer, and there is a Neolithic campsite just down about half a mile away from the house, in a little dell thing that every year the British Museum come and excavate that. And I look at that and I go, do you know what? It was 100,000 years ago, or 200,000 years ago, whatever. What caused people to decide this is where they wanted to be? Right? What was it about the thing? Right? And this is kind of, if you tap into the vibe of the place, the vibe of the landscape, then it injects something into your image. It may not be obvious, but at least be in tune with it. And this is kind of this thing, you know. I like this sort of thing, and I think that its wonkiness and all of its stuff like that is just it lends itself to it so much. Again, I would love to see a sequence of these photographs. You know, somebody said about the vignetting. Yeah, that's film. That looks like it's the edge of either a neg that's popped, or it doesn't feel like it's a slide film. I don't mind so much. You know, it's again, you know, sometimes we need to sort of decide if the technical really detracts from the image, or if we're just kind of sort of nitpicking for the thing. But you know, each to their own, obviously. But it's interesting somebody mentioned film, yeah, because it does have this organic kind of feel to it. It is life, juiced scenery. Hello, yes, welcome. Here we go. So this is, I like this. This is very interesting. Some bit of modern art kind of stuff, sort of going on here. I do like these kind of images. I like the geometricness, if you want to call it that. I'm not completely sold on the composition, which again has been a theme. It's always a theme. There is something, now I'm looking at this image, which is, you know, that you've seen something interesting, and I appreciate that it is a piece of art, it's an installation in a building or something, and there's nothing wrong with it. Absolutely, I photograph this kind of thing all the time. I love it, right? But looking at the photograph, I feel that there's a better picture hiding here in plain sight, and that is, I don't know if I can zoom in on it here, but if I do this, hopefully that will sort of thing. So you see this kind of, this black shadow that's in between the two of them, right? If you cropped in right in there, right, so we don't know what this thing is, that feels like that's where the picture is. That really, for me, you know, you've got this kind of very strong geographic, very strong geometric shape going on that aligns itself with this. Plus the way the light is just playing off the edges of that stainless steel or whatever it is. So cool, right? I think, yeah, you've seen some lovely stuff here, but next time you're in here with these things, don't be afraid to chop them up. You don't need to include all the things. There's my Facebook page is public, so if you look up Alex Kilby, you'll find my Facebook page. And there is an album in my photos called like Tate Modern or London in it or something like that, where I went to the Tate Modern. And you'll see, I've done a lot of similar sort of things, but I'm sort of chopping them up and stuff like that. So yes, don't be afraid to crop in and get full on into them. Okay, so we have here a sort of a street scene with the, you know, some of the markings on the road and stuff like that. It's hard, I think, with this kind of image, that again these blurred motorbikes and stuff like that feel like they are intruding on what you're trying to take a photograph of. That they weren't supposed to be there, which is a shame, because I know that they are supposed to be there. It's a classic. I mean, it's totally. They're not in the frame, but they're not out of the frame. They're not part of the picture, but they're not part of the picture. They've got to be. They've got to be more. You know, and this again comes back to composition. I think your everything is right here. Your ideas of the black and white and using all that stuff is great. This use of the road markings is lovely. It just, the composition I feel needs to be worked on a little bit. And I've been in similar situations. You go, this is really nice. The graphic is so good, and the picture that you took, it's better in your head. I think that's kind of one of the things, that picture is better in your head, and this is advice to me as well. Next time I see this sort of thing, is sit with it a little bit. Like I said with the closed road sign thing. See if you can coax out a better picture from the possibilities that we have. Yeah. That is the thing. It needs to be. It's there. So all these pictures tonight. I mean, you know, none of them are like, oh my god, this is like nothing, right? There's something there. Everybody's seeing something. We just need to coax it out just a little bit more. Okay. All right. Sorry, I've been talking for almost 2 hours non-stop, so I'm just going to take a breather. All right, so we have a I've got to look into crash. So we got this very interesting abstract of the you know, like a street, and then looks like a disabled parking spot or something like that, and this guy striding and what have you, and all very interesting individually. The parts are all kind of cool. It doesn't feel like it's coming together somehow. There's a couple of things I think would probably. I think the inclusion of the guy striding, yes, absolutely needs that kind of organic feel to it. The sign that's intruding from the left looks like a kind of like two things around sort of thing on. I think is somewhat distracting. It's not really adding to the image. Something that if you are able to with this photograph, go back and make it contrastier. Really up the contrast on this. Make it almost blacks, whites, and basically nothing else in between. So like an old piece of lith film. See what happens, because you've got these two lines. You've got this diagonal road line. You've got the bricks, and then you've got the sort of the parking space side, and then this drainage thing that just intersects the entire thing, right? And then this guy striding. This all feels very. I've used the word graphic earlier a lot. It does feel very graphic, and I think with that kind of thing, a punchy black and white would really give it a bit more oomph, real heft. You know, one of the things that I feel a lot of people, and I include myself in this, is, especially these days, is that we're almost frightened to really take things to extremes with the photography. That we want shadow detail, we want highlight detail, we want all those details, and sometimes detail's not necessary. It doesn't need to be like that. Alex Webb, I know I mentioned Alex Webb like a ton, but a lot of his images don't have any shadow detail. So, you know, just go with it. It just run with it. See what happens. See what happens. You know, yeah, some high contrast in this. But I would again, and a lot of people, I know I say, you know, I would like to see more of your work. It's one of the drawbacks with these is I'm not speaking to you as a directly, you know, and also I'm only seeing one image or two images or maybe three. So, you know, it's one of those things that if you are interested, if you would like to, you know, have more time, if you go on the TPE course site, which I'll put a link in the description, there is a you know, there's an option to have like a little 30-minute sort of one-to-one session of you know, a one-to-one session of chatting and having some feedback with images, which is always helpful because yeah, we can then talk about things and see more images, because, you know, having one as an individual, it lacks context. It lacks so much. You know, obviously it's useful to give some feedback, but I feel that a lot of the feedback often that I give that, you know, might be better or different, probably, you know, if you could see like 2 or 3 images together of a similar sort of subject. Oh, hello. Some wildlife. We haven't had wildlife in here for ages, which would be nice. So we've got an owl, little owl. Look at him, sleepiness there. Now, we talked about the dog way back at the beginning of the session. That there was a real, you know, the sort of thing. I love this. That you like with the dog. If you got really close into it, to the exclusion of anything else, it makes such an impact. If you think about the impact of this owl, boom, little flecks of snow with his beak, and it's got his eyes that are closed but they're sort of half open. I wonder what happened if you were looking straight into the lens, right? Also think, and now that I'm sort of just looking at it as well, it's like there's a flecks of blood on his coat, which is like, wow, okay, you know, lovely, some detail. You know, I must say I haven't really looked at wildlife photography for a long time, but you know, it's this kind of thing that it's a really nice photograph. I'm sure that, you know, people who are more versed in wildlife photography might, and especially bird photography, might say there are things that are technically wrong with it, but you know, to a lay person, and I am a lay person when it comes to wildlife photography, that I like this. I like the look of it. You know, I do feel, I think maybe 1 or 2 people is that you know, the bird feels like he's a little bit low in the frame, just like a scooch. But I kind of look at this and go, do you know what? There's often certainly in the modern photography, a feeling that things should be perfect, and we all kind of fall into this from time to time. We could have done this, we could have done that, we could do a little bit of clone here, and if you did this and you did that, then everything will be sort of fine. And that's kind of, that drifts into the world of, you know, wanting to make everything perfect, and wanting to feel like we, you know, we are input in giving feedback in some way. And yes, it feels, the image feels like it's kind of squiff. I don't know quite how, but I look at this and I go, immediately, the thing that it did for me was the impact. I think that's kind of thing. First and foremost, the impact it did. And if we were comparing another 10 images like this of ours that are all the same thing, then these subtleties like composition, like the, you know, the very fine minutiae of the image would come into play. But this, it just feels, I think, you know, what I would kind of probably make this image a bit stronger is that his plumage around the side, or his feathers, are the same tone as the eye shields, whatever you want to call them. And if you toned everything down outside of this part of his face, I say he, right? It could be a girl bird, right? It could be a gender neutral bird, who knows? Then that would bring out this part. This would bring it, which is the focus of the image. So I think a little dodge and burn on this would really go a long way to making this picture just snap. And as I said, I know he's a bird, and we don't have much control over the birds. He could close your eyes, could look this way, could look that. These eyes are kind of, they're not open, they're not closed. Right? They either need to be like this, looking into the lens, or they need to be asleep. Right? At the moment they're kind of like, I'm kind of bored. Right? So they need to be one of the other. I don't know how you would do it with dogs. You make a funny noise. You go, right? and the dog will generally look at you. Don't know how you do with birds, but speak to an ornithologist to see what they can suggest. Alright, okay, so we've got some smoke. Alright, what have we got? Okay. Jonathan. So in South Africa, how's it is just a slang greeting for hello. And I don't know where I picked it up, but just say how's it as a kind of a thing. It's it's a slang. I originally came back with the channel because I felt really odd just sitting down in front of a camera and going, so I'm going to talk. So I went, how's that? It just made me feel more comfortable. So here we go. You've got some guys, some interesting lighting. You know, he's been reflected on there. He's got he's having a little smoke and stuff like that. Some nice layering going on. I think I've seen your photography before. It's it's kind of a gritty, sort of urban-y sort of thing. This is kind of the photography that I used to take. And this is not like saying, I grew out of or something like that. But when I was a student, I quite liked this kind of thing. And it's nice to play with lighting like this. It's nice to feel like you're somewhat playing on the edge, that you're pushing sort of boundaries and trying different things out. And I would suggest to a lot of people who are watching this is to approach things from a different angle. If the light is the thing, and quite frankly, the light is the thing in this image. There's not, the composition is kind of interesting and we're a little bit playful, but it's the light. The light is the thing that's going on here. Now, there's some, we're losing some stuff on the highlights and stuff like that and what have you, but rather than nitpick about that and say we're losing the highlights and his forehead is blown out and stuff like that, we should go, okay, that's whatever, right? You've recognized the light. That's the thing that we are looking for. Is you need to recognize the light that's going on. And somebody's talking, they're talking about the reflection. It seems to be dividing opinion. I like the reflection because at least you've gone beyond just the obvious of saying, well, it's the light and the light is enough. We're now adding a bit more. It's things like that. It's the change. The Boots logo that's coming in on the reflection, you could be pedantic about it, so it was a bit distracting and stuff like that. But it's not breaking the image, right? I think it's good. I think the light is the thing here that I'm sort of drawn towards, and good for recognise it, and good for also doing it in a way that makes a bit more sense. I'd be interested to see what this looks like in colour. I think that Boots logo might ruin it, because for those who don't know, Boots is a UK pharmacy, and their logo is blue. In the reflection of the guy, there's part of it coming in, which might be a bit too much, but there we go. But yeah, this thing is, I think we can sit there and talk about, highlights on the foreheads and things like that. Ultimately, these kind of things are about recognizing potential for potential images, and finding the light is that first step. I think, if we were looking at the same photographer in, say, 5 years' time, who's still doing these blown out highlights after having me told about them, then I think there's a case for saying, look, you're doing it wrong. But really, I want everybody to go away feeling like we can push on from this, because it is a growth thing. I'm not going to blow smoke up anybody's butts, but I think we need to make it also sort of celebrate the small wins. All right, so so this is Holy, actually my little boy's friend at school. His dad is Indian, so he went to a Holi celebration at Georgie's house a couple of weeks ago, and I went to go pick him up. Came back covered in blue. So for those who don't know, Holi is an Indian festival where they all throw colour at each other. It's like powder paint kind of stuff. So it's one of those things where yes, it's going to wreck your camera because it is paint. It's powder paint, and it gets everywhere. What I'm kind of seeing with this is, Holi is it is well known for colour, for in your face, for dramatic stuff like that. I would like to see more of that. This is a guy, if you look around, you've got the guy in the bottom left, he's got some of the blue on his face, he's got some red and all sorts of stuff like that. And he's got colour, right? The guy who's up on the shoulders is not. He's got a bit of smear of green, stuff like that. I think there was so much more going on here. Diane has mentioned about flash. That would be good, especially this time of day, twilight. I think you're going to start to struggle a little bit with exposures, and Holi's frantic as well, right? Holi is a very crazy kind of thing. And some slow sync flash, I think, would go a long way to really making that pop. At the moment, because at the moment this feels like, with all due respect, it feels a bit snapshotish. Like this is a friend of yours who's on somebody's shoulders. If you're trying to get the feeling of Holi across and the colours and stuff like that, a pop of flash, put plastic bags all around your camera, stick it out with elastic bands and stuff like that, and get in there, get in and just get dirty. but yeah, I think that would definitely help next time around. And if you do live in India, which this may well be, embrace this kind of stuff. You know what it's about, man. Get to the heart of these things. Right, excuse me. So we've got some, what is this? It looks like a little abstract. It's got some growth stuff going on. Here's some plants and tarmac or something like that. I do like this. I think we've seen a couple of images tonight where there's been very strong colours. I think the window and the green plant with the leaves. This wants to be the same thing. This wants to be punchier, right? So it wants to have some black and the greens. It wants to be vibrant. Now you can do that in post. I think if you start doing those kind of things in post, it does change it a little bit. But if you underexpose this a little bit, it would give you a chance to make the blacks a little bit blacker. And because you do that, even though you are underexposing the greens, and the greens are quite delicate, they're going to be a lot more pronounced against the black of the asphalt. See, Lloyd's kind of not keen on the blurred foreground. I don't mind it so much. This is, again, I think this comes down to sort of personal taste. I think it makes it feel bigger, like this. It does feel like it might be a little bit fake. I don't know, but we'll talk about it. So these sort of things. But I feel the colour here is the first thing that you really want to be focusing on. You've got the right idea. I think the technicalities and the minutiae of depth of field and stuff like that is something to be worked at a later date. But the colour, for me, feels like what initially drew you to this image. And if we work on the colour first, making that colour pop, making it really strong and punchy, then we can start looking at what would be the most beneficial, most appropriate you know, sort of use of depth of field. And again, I think it's one of these things where it would be interesting to see an image that is completely in focus and then shallow depth of field really side by side to make comparisons to sort of see, because I'm sure there are pros and cons to each one. You know, and I think, you know, obviously the audience, you know, the people in the chat are saying that it feels like the out of focusness at the front is a little bit too much. But again, you know, I think we can do the comparison with those would be interesting. But I think, you know, look at the color first, and then move on to the other bits. Nope. Okay. Right. How are we doing here, by the way? So I'm just going to pop out of here. Shoof! Halfway through. It's like 2 hours. We're going to be here all night. Jump in for the long ones. And let me guess, that has now stopped showing it on. That has now stopped showing it on Ziggy, on OBS. Yes, it has. Oh, alright, okay, I'm just going to change it around quickly. OBS, I'm in the sun. There we go. Alright, back again. Alright, okay. Right, okay, so we got there. Right, going to move along a little bit quicker because otherwise I'm going to be here for ages. Right, so yeah, so bridge through the night. Again, you know, I talk about composition, you know, quite a lot, and this one I think you've got the right idea. It's kind of getting through there. You know, we're looking at nice images. That you've drawn to something, but it doesn't seem to have a focal point to it. I think that's kind of the problem with this one, is that I'm not seeing any sort of point to this image beyond the interesting lighting and stuff like that. It's such a with bridges especially, that, you know, there's lots of leading lines and stuff like that. If you're able to go back and revisit these, try and see what they look like when you try and cut out the background, the stuff in the reverse, the buildings and stuff like that. It's, you know, it just, that feels like it's distracting, and you've lost the point of what is you're being drawn towards, which is the bridge here. So if you can go back, try and photograph this bridge without any of that sort of modern stuff in the background, and see what it gives you. Right. Okay. Lovely. So you know, these are, as you all know, I'm a sucker for these kind of things. Absolute sucker. And I do like this. My initial thing is that it's flat. Sorry to say, the contrast in this is lacking. It just wants a little, not a huge amount. It doesn't want like tons. The composition's lovely, with the exception of this chap on the right hand side that's poking in. But this it wants a bit more punch. It wants a bit more oomph, and I think it will really sing. It's a lovely image. You know, yeah, that guy on the right hand side really needs to go. But outside of that, I like this. You know, I don't think it's going to set the world alight, but I like it. It's a nice. Say nice. You know, sorry, nice is a terrible expression in photography. But yeah, it really wants that punchiness, and I think I'd like to see more of these kind of images from you. They're really, really lovely. But yeah, next time, punchy, and possibly try some long exposure with this. You know, get those clouds smeary. I think that would kind of nice. I know it's a bit hackneyed for some things, but you know, give it a try. Alright, so here we've got Okay, so an interesting building, an aquarium with lots of snow and all sorts of stuff like that. Okay, now interesting enough, now if you compare this to the one previously, okay, so which was a very much a very strong shape of architectural forms. This has the potential to do the same thing, but you kind of missed it. You're stuck in limbo. You've got your friend at the front, you're photographing, and then you're photographing the building, and there's a lot of messiness at the bottom. There's snow that's piled up against it. There's been that's been scraped away from around it and stuff like that, and I think even though the lighting is really lovely on this building, you've been stuck between two. It's like you've turned around and taken a grab shot and then moved on. Go back, revisit this. Forget about your friends. Forget about the stuff that's going on the floor. Look at the top, right? Look at this building. I know that it's snowy, but it's steaming. This building is steaming. Look at the top. There's like, I don't know, either that snow coming off because it's being blown up or something like that, but there's the shots there, man, and it's such an interesting looking building. Go back if you're able to, right, and let the building speak to you. Take a moment. We talked about standing in a place and finding the voice that the image is giving you. Do that. Go back. Might sound a bit stupid, but go up and just stroke the building, right? Let it talk to you. Just say, hey, building, you and me, we're going to take some pictures today, right? See what he wants to say to you, right? Then it will come out, right? It sounds hippie, but trust me, give it a whirl, right? Don't be in a rush to take pictures. Hello, duck. Right? And the duck's like, hello duck, and then the other one's like, hello dragonfly. So we got a duck and a dragonfly, and oops, yeah, that is the whole thing. So again, so we were talking about the owl earlier with the wildlife. I like this little dragonfly guy coming in here. This feels like you've cropped into a much larger picture. Sorry, it just feels like there's a big frame and you've chopped a bit out of it, which is nothing wrong with that. Obviously your image quality is going to suffer, and I feel the reason you've done that is because you've noticed that this dragonfly is near the duck, and you thought, well, that makes a kind of cool picture. And what happens is with this is that you think it's more of an interesting picture than it possibly is, because you kind of go, that's something, kind of cool, right? Whereas initially you were just like photographing this duck, and so I've talked about kind of letting the scenes carry and thinking that the scene should carry your image and stuff like that. And I feel here, if you had actually kind of not worried so much about the dragonfly that's coming in here, which I'm sorry, it's not making the image. It does not improve. It doesn't improve it enough to warrant cropping it in like this and making the image feel right? Which is a technical term for right. That I think the extreme cropping that's gone on here, that it feels like, it's the picture that could have been interesting, which is John thinks it's a loon. I don't know. It's a duck. I'm going to go with a duck. It's not a duck. Okay, let's say an aquatic bird of nondescriptness. I think as a larger piece, it might have been better. And by larger, I mean where the bird in question is smaller in the frame and there's more context around, which is quite interesting. Because the colours on the water and stuff are lovely and stuff like that. But but there we go. Yeah. So next time, think about, does this improve the image enough to warrant what I'm doing to it? Okay, so now, so this feels interesting. Okay, right. So it's a complete change of pace. Sorry, I sit on my legs, which is why I keep hopping up. It's the national bird of Canada. What is it? CA, NA, DA. Yeah. It's this kind of looking down on stuff. Interesting again, because these drone shots give a very strong graphic quality to the world that we live in. I've always found it because it's such a different way of looking at things. Now with this image, especially because it's snowy, and so that sort of changes things up already. We are going to go to the place of composition and cropping again. There's lines, there's wavy lines down the bottom. Great. That bend with what looks like it could be an amphitheatre or a set of steps or something like that. That I'd like for that not necessarily to be like on a third, but a little bit higher up. Just a little bit, so there's more of a bend through it, more of a curve through, and possibly less water, less land and more water. That might be interesting because that water's very green, very interesting sort of thing. And so I guess there's compositional sort of ideas about photography that are so important to play with things. And this is why kind of sometimes, if you see a scene that you kind of go, well, there's potential here, is to let it sit with you. This is kind of what we're talking about, letting things sort of stew with us for a bit. And I know with the drone it's kind of slightly different. But definitely try it. Don't be in a rush to in a rush to kind of take the picture too quickly. All right, okay. Now this is a very, is this, I want to say that this is a place in the Lake District or something that you get like some sort of, like there's been pictures here before. I think, it is I think it's somewhere famous. You also win a prize. Everybody tonight with composition win a prize. Technically the black and white, the treatment, stuff like that, lovely. Love it. Okay, it's really nice, it's moody, it's atmospheric, the length of exposure is really good. There's a bit of a mixture here, all those kind of like technical aspects are really nice. And I know you can't go on there and start pulling out all those bits of logs and sticks and things and what have you. But I'm sorry, they are so detrimental. Everything else in this picture is lovely and smooth and textured if it needs to be, and then you got all the crap that's been floating on top of the lake for the drain hole. That's kind of washed up on the side here. It spoils the image. I think this image, I know you're looking for like foreground because you've got these rocks on the foreground and stuff like that, which means that then you have to get all that rubbish in. But the drain itself, I think you could crop it. I'm holding my hand up here, like you could crop in there with the drain into like a corner. It's like a weird crop, rather than it being first and foremost, which is most people do, like having it in a corner like this, and then you have like the corner. So all of this kind of stuff is all very lost and very flat and misty. That guy, and then the control tower for the dam, everything, you've spent so much time getting so many things right here, and I think the foreground is absolutely letting this thing down. which is a shame. I think it could have been really nice. Maybe if you want to get together with the guy, the guy with the drone, I think it's Charles, go to photograph it, the drone, down the plug hole, because I'd like to see what's down those things. And I can't imagine for a second what would happen if you fell down the thing. That would be awful. Can you imagine? Oh. Anyway, yeah, it's so many things right, and yet so many things. It's like so close, man, so close. But I really like your treatment on it. Yeah, it's just a case of, I think, really thinking about the composition. The plug hole can be a foreground. I'm looking at it like it could be a foreground. Don't think that you need to have it as the main subject, right? So it's pretty good. Let me know where it is. Is it the Lake District, or is it Scotland? Yeah. Well, there we go. Right. It's okay. That's it. But that's the thing, isn't it? In this day and age, if there's something interesting that people can photograph, then they will do it forever. It's like that place, oh my God, the viaduct up near Milton Keynes somewhere with all the brick holes. Yeah, so here we go. So we've got a tree and a little sunset sort of thing going on, and yeah, do you know what? I like this. It's not the world's most amazing photograph. It's not, I don't think it's going to win any awards. I'm sorry to say, I don't think it has enough pizzazz to it, if you want to call it pizzazz. But I do like it. I think, this idea of the sun setting or coming up, behind this tree is kind of nice. Good job on it not blowing out the tree trunks too much. So there's enough detail and all this kind of thing in there. What I kind of would like to see, that we've got this, it feels primeval almost. Woods of primeval, forests and mountains, they are core things that shouldn't change too much. And I think this inclusion of this lighter part in that valley, which looks like it could be either mining or there's some sort of modern thing down there, that if it was just taken out a little bit, so you change your angle just a little bit, just so it's not looking at it too much, then I think that would improve this image so much. I do feel also that sunsets and sunrises and things where light is a major player, especially in a natural environment rather than like an urban city graphic environment, probably feel better in colour. But then again, I don't know what the colour looked like that day. But I'd be interested to see if you could process this in colour and get a mood. It has a mood right now, but see what the mood looks like in colour. It'd be quite fantastic. I think, Jonathan, so you're asking about my current favourite people who are sort of unsubbed. I think, and you've said you've sort of subbed to most people, that Alistair Ben is probably remains, I think, the closest to the sort of thing that I certainly talk about, and what have you. I would answer in more depth, but after talking about photographs for almost 2.5 hours, I'm afraid my brain is a little bit sort of focused on these sort of things. But I will try and see if there's anyone sort of pop into my head. All right, so we got right. So again, we were talking earlier. It was reflections previously with the girl with the mask and that sort of stuff. And here we've got 4 people. Looks like it is a pub. It's interesting, little interplay. You've got 2 people, who are busy talking to each other. He's on his second pint. She's on her first. you know, and she said, listen, you know, you need to to get on with it, or you know, or you need to stop drinking so much, whatever. And you got then the two guys who are just, well, not really involved with each other. You know, they're not really sort of talking, but it's an interesting interplay. I don't think, you know, again, like so much of street photography that I tend to find is that they work better as a series. That they are, you know, you can street photography. You can look at things, and there can be so many things that are technically not correct about them. You know, like she's got all those taps above her head and yada 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 and things like that. But ultimately, street photography is about life, and it is about reacting to people going about their everyday lives. It's not about contriving to make things look perfect. And that's sort of the thing, is that, you know, rather than looking at this image and going, well, it could have been this, or it could have been that, or you could have, if you change your positions a little bit, then all those globes at the top of the image would be equidistant through the center and yada yada yada. But really, the framing is central. You know, so that's a nice. At least you paid attention to that, and then you're waiting for an image. And she's obviously been talking, and I think probably been quite animated, as some people can tend to be when they talk. And you waited for her to do something interesting. It's a shame that nothing crazy happened on the other table to give it a little bit more oomph. But those are the sort of things, you know, that's how they come and go. Again, you know, I think, you know, kudos to you for getting the framing of the actual window frames even, paying attention to that. I think a lot of people wouldn't. You know, if you do want to be 100% pedantic, yeah, I think if you're taking a step to the left, then the lighting globes on the inside would be also equidistant. But apart from that, yeah, I think that's looking pretty good. Okay. Yeah, I mean, obviously we can't change what the people inside are doing. So I'm not going to talk about, you know, things like the bags and, you know, that bloke's foot and things. They are what they are. You know, you know, we can't hold them. So there we go. Okay. Right. So a little bit of bit more. Again, I think obviously this must be a drone. You know, up in the air. It's nice. You know, I think that's kind of. Again, I hated that people saying those things about my work when I was a student, and I apologise for saying it. But it's one of the things. It is an interesting photograph. It's not necessarily my cup of tea, but it's colourful. It probably could use being a little bit more punchy, just a little bit, not over the top, but just to give like rather than whacking up the saturation, I think it could have done with just like a bit more sort of vibrance to it. So in the old days, you know, if you'd photographed this on, let's say, you know, some sort of kind of bog standard colour film, and then photographed it on Velvia, you know, seeing those sort of differences. And I think that given what you're looking at with this big estuary, because I don't think it's the sea, because there's some stuff in the horizon. You know, and the colours, the way that also the clouds are playing on the whole thing, that this all is about colour. And so you really want to make the colours pop. You want to make the colour the subject of the image. You know, that's kind of really what we're hearing. At the moment, it feels just a little bit like it's been through the wash 10 times. And that's unfortunate. It really wants something. I don't think it necessarily needs things like, you know, Russell had suggested like a canoe or something like that. I think the overall thing just needs, it feels a bit washed out, a little bit damp flannel, like you've thrown a damp flannel. That's the impact that it's getting. It's just, it's not quite landing. And if you want to be really pedantic, you could Photoshop out the seagulls down the bottom left corner. But yeah, I think this one wants that vibrance. It wants to come alive with the colour. You know, this is on the face of it devoid of life, but obviously when you look at this, it is teeming with life. Give it some life, man. Make it beautiful. Okay, look at this. Wow. So, you know, the lighting here is, you know, we've gone back to things that are all about the lighting. And I love what you're doing with this lighting. That there's this thing that runs down, it's like a rib cage of someone with a spine that runs down it. And I'm gonna sound like a stuck record. It's composition. It's composition. It's always composition. All this stuff on the top left, not doing it for me. It's really the thing is here. It is right in front of us, and it's right in front and to the bottom right. These handrails and stuff on the top left are just like, why are they there? Just take them away, right? This stuff here, this I'm sort of, that's where this picture, and it doesn't need anything else. It can be as punchy and as contrasty as it is, but your composition is not working for this. You've got so much interesting stuff going on here, and yet it's not being served up to us on a plate. It really, it's there. It's so close. Look at it again. I'm pleased that you have chosen to use some inky blacks and stuff like that, and really, but yeah, if you're gonna do that, then don't include all this other stuff that even with this bloody ring light for this thing, I can still see them. They're poking in here. They're being in the way. There's too much. This part of the image, and let's say waving, you know, the actual frame. That's the image, not all the stuff that's off the side there. But good job. I love the light. The light and the way you've handled it is beautiful. Show me less of the crap that's around it, right? I want to see this again, but toiter, like toiga, okay? So that was my really awful Austin Powers impression. So here we go, right? So this is a similar idea. Now, obviously, completely different subject. I'm going to guess this is a torso or a nude study, but this is the point. Or there is nothing else here apart from the light and the way that's playing on the figure. That is gorgeous, right? Absolutely lovely, right? And this is what I meant about being tighter, about not showing anything else that's in the image around it that takes away from the thing that we're looking at. This is really lovely. I don't think that there's anything that I would kind of add to this, except, because there's always an except, isn't there? I would possibly like to see it, or at least have the option of seeing two, because I'm kind of on the fence about one that's maybe like a, if you understand zone system, and I'm going to guess that you're looking at this, you do. This feels like it's a lot of zone 6. You know, with the color highlights. I'd like to see those highlights maybe just like pushing to zone 7, just to see, maybe not the whole thing, but just this, what looks like this leg Z or sideways V. Those guys at 7, so the highlights are 7, and the back one can stay at zone 6, just to see if it makes it a little bit punchy. It might be my screen, it might be the file that you've sent me or something like that, but it just feels like, even though the tones are beautiful, that it needs a little bit, it needs a little bit of seasoning just to bring it up. But that's really nice, and I like it, and I'm not going to pick it apart because my throat is is going, and there's no need to pick it apart. I think that's beautiful and a good example of honing in on just a single thing on a photo. Beautiful. Yeah. All right. Okay. So it says the first word that springs to mind with this. Sorry, I shouldn't do that. That's a terrible thing. I do things with my nose. The first word that springs to mind with this, which you're going to love, is evident. Sorry. Yeah, this immediately, in terms of the processing and in terms of the person and stuff, it puts me in mind of evidence into the American West. Having said that, I feel you've missed a trick here. I think the pose is wrong for this gentleman. He is certainly full of character. He's an outside man. He looks like he's about to get skin cancer. I mean, it's the toning on his skin and everything. There is a story here, man. He knows it. He has seen stuff. He is, geez, afraid of Billy Connolly. He is drunk wine up the graveyard, right? But I don't get any of his story from him. I don't get that grit. I know this person. I know his, but I'm not feeling it from his photo. I can, certainly, I want to see him. I want to see his, and by him, I mean his soul, right? I don't want to see his hat. I don't want to see his beard. I want to see this gent. I want to see what he has seen, right? And I can't get that when he's looking in profile, right? He doesn't, Russell's talking about his eyes engaging. He doesn't necessarily need to look at the camera, but he needs to be more than a profile. So a 3/4. So what he's doing right now is he's this, right? He's very much profile, but not profile enough that it's an actual profile, right? Because there's a little bit of thing coming through. But he wants to be this. So he's kind of 3/4 on, so we can at least get something. And he needs to think about that time the cow got stuck down in a canyon and we had to go whip it up with the thing. At least give him something to think about, right? Or he needs to be into the camera, right? It's those kind of things, those feels, right? Russell's asking about the background of that. If he's done the same as Avedon, it was simply a sheet that was up on a frame. Again, is this a white sky? Yes. Okay, great. So if it's a white sky, but that's kind of thing, I want to see his story. And we can't get that when just in a profile. If he's going to be profile, then he needs to be like a full-on profile. But yeah, I like it. More characters. If you've not seen Avedon's American West, go and check it out. Yeah. So here we go. So this is definitely not a cowboy. This is a big nose and a mouth. Right? Nose there. It's a kid. Looks like, it's probably three, something like that. Sort of like a little sort of kid. In another life, I photographed children a lot, and they are they're tricksy little things. They have their own sort of thing like that. I love the engagement on this. I love the thing. If this is your own child, then actually it's not as easy as people think with your own child, because they behave with you very differently than if you are kind of, for want of a better word, a stranger. If you are new to them, if you are a photographer photographing them, you get a window of opportunity, a bit of leeway that you don't always get with your own children. And my own child is case in point. He dicks around. So I like this. It's kind of fun. I talked earlier about sort of brown eyes. This is a good example, right? So in black and white, or anything that's kind of more of a moody light, this kid's eyes are going to go quite dark because of the thing. The exposure's not quite right. There's some burnout on the nose, and just a fraction, not a huge amount. What I'm kind of not seeing with this, which I think might be helped by being just a little bit less in your face, is some of this kid's personality, right? There's some coming through, like that, but it's it feels like what's happened is that there's a fine, you know, there's a weird sort of thing that the kids go from no personality to lots of personality. So this graph is going up to too much, and as soon as it goes too much, it just drops out. And I think what's happened is we've gone too much. Being a little bit further away, with then doing this kind of crazy into the eye, you know, into the lens with wide angle thing. When you're further away, works a lot better than this. This crop feels like it's too close. It's just a little bit too. It's too much here, right? And I may be speaking from the perspective of somebody who does, obviously, you know, who used to sell pictures. I couldn't sell this, right? This photograph, there's no way of selling this. It's too in your face to go on the wall. It's too large, right? The face is too big. So as soon as it becomes a reasonable size to put on the wall, so it's like a maybe, you know, like even something like a 20-inch, that face is too big. Nobody wants to have this on their wall, right? And you know, if this is your own child, I mean, you may say, oh, well, it's my child. That's the thing. You took the photograph, and it's your child. So there are two things going in its favour for you. But I feel that this would be better if it was more treated like a kind of like a very reasonably tight head and shoulders, with a similar expression, and you can do that. All right. A trick that you can use for this age group is ask them about their favourite TV character or their movie character or something like that, and say, "You know, they live in my lens. Can you see them?" And they'll go, "What?" You know, and they go straight in. Right. So that's that's the little. There's this thing, right? Right. Okay. So there's a little bit of a still life kind of, you know, checking things out and stuff like that. I'm going to say, you know, there's obviously, you know, we all have our own opinions about images, and that's perfectly fine. I was going to sort of say, you know, that you know, this is a public space, and everybody is obviously free to say what they like, and there's always just be mindful of the person on the other side. I'm not saying that we can't give criticism. But there's always, you know, there's always positive criticism, and there's always just kind of being just, you know, not necessarily, you know, sort of otherwise about people's sort of pictures, but yeah, it's kind of one of the things. Anyway, so moving on, we've got so like a still life, you know, sort of thing going on here. And interesting now, I think, you know, when you look at this, I can't really tell what this is. This something with the piano or you know, possibly like that. So, you know, so strange. Unfortunately, with this kind of image, the sharpest things are going to draw our eye first of all. You know, they're going to just, you know, they're going to really leap out here. And what's going on is at the bottom left, there is like a sort of, you know, a key or a flange or something that's really sharp. And also because it's highlighted again, it's a dark thing, it's a white background. It is super shiny, right? Okay. And it's drawing my eye when you have focused on the third string holder, whatever you want to call them, in the panel down, and so it's not quite working out. So I think you need to just be a little bit more mindful with this. Also, in this regard, I know we've talked a bit about contrast this evening. With this contrasty kind of image, you've got lots of very bright specular highlights against dark, solid black things, and they are really competitive. They are really drawing our eyes. They are really leaping out and going, dude, look at me, look at me, look at me, which is kind of not what we want to see. So if you want to be really pedantic about this and sorting that kind of thing out, and if you're really struggling with them, I think, and I stand to be corrected, but I think you can use like hairspray or something, you know, something, because it dulls down the surface, it makes it less shiny, and sort of helps you deal with deal with all those sort of things. So that's always kind of thing. So there we go. All right. Yeah, it's like that. See this specular highlight here is too much against this. Yeah, I think it's just kind of things. Okay, more window frames, and the photographer themselves. Hello, photographer. You know, the colouring on this is kind of interesting. But then again, those are sort of things of personal choice. I'm sort of looking at this and sort of going, feel like, I feel like you're looking at this and kind of going, there's more here, that you've got 4 people all sort of in their own world, doing their own thing, not paying attention to anything. If you were in the chat, is this Edinburgh? I don't know if you are in the chat or something, but it looks like it. I want to say it's Edinburgh, but it feels like it's Edinburgh. Anyway, it feels like there was an image here that you sort of saw that I don't know if it's necessarily come off. We're talking about sort of frames earlier, and I feel this one wants to be maybe just a foot wider. Something a little bit. The edging, because these 2 girls on the edge are right on the edge, and this very thin frame of the window is around them. I think if you came back just a touch and gave them a little bit more space, it would kind of draw the eyes. It wouldn't necessarily. And the reason I say that is because if you chop them off, right, then they're right at the edge of it and they're sort of out. It's not right. But if you go a little bit further back and give the outside of the window frame more space, I think it just gives the image a little bit more thing to breathe. And I know there's nothing you can do about it, but that car in the reflection, I think, is absolutely destroying this shot. Whatever was in this shot, that car, but it's not your fault because it's not your car and there's nothing you can do about it. It's just, unfortunately, the more we look at it, the more that we see the car is I don't mind necessarily the reflection of the photographer, but the car is, it sort of comes back to, is this a good enough shot to worth hanging around to try and change? And I feel that possibly not in this case. I think you got the right ideas, and one of these will come off for you, but it's not this one. Do I say so? There we go quite a lot. I think I do. So there we go. Right, here's another drone shot for all you drone haters out there. Here's another drone shot. This is probably my favourite out of the lot. This is a little bit more. This is a little more playing into the strengths of drone, that we're making it more graphic. We're making breaking down to more abstract things. So Charles, if this is yours, again, I think this is the strongest. This is the direction I feel that you really would like to be going with. This feels so much stronger, so much better. Again, tighten up the compositions. Think about the abstract patterns. Think about how it kind of would work better. The house at the top of the image, not really add into it. This little triangular pattern with the roads and the trees and stuff down the bottom, so much better. And I think your handling of the image here, this sort of color negative thing, is very nice. So there we go. Right. Yeah, I don't think a polarizer is necessarily going to get rid of that car or yourself, but you never know. You never know. Chicken. It's not a chicken, it's a rooster. Hello, rooster. So we have chickens as well. I wonder if somebody put them away tonight. I don't know. It's like 11:15. I'm thinking, oh, my chicken's away. Lovely colours. Beautiful colours. That rooster is... He's roosting. He's doing his thing. I'm a rooster. Yeah, really nice. You know, if I think the framing on this is great. Against the red door, awesome. Really good stuff. I wonder if this guy does this all the time, because this feels like this wasn't just a snapshot. If he does do this all the time, get rid of the drinking bowls. It's just, yeah, the dog bowls are not adding to the picture, unfortunately. But everything else is really nice. I think the colouring is lovely. The luminescence on his tail is wonderful. Look at this. There's greens. Feels like you've dodged that out a little bit. It looks like some halo around his tail. If this rooster does do this all the time, next time try it with just a little bit of fill-in flash, just like a smidge. Especially given his tail, I think that would make the colours in his plumage absolutely pop. And try and underexpose the background by like half a stop or something, and ever so slightly faster shutter speed as well, because his wings, they're in that kind of weird place where that motion blur is not right but it's not wrong. They're in that kind of sort of that grey zone, but I really like it, you know. But yeah, the dog bowls, and yeah, just a little bit of pop, but great. Yeah, I think my chickens would like to meet him. They'd be like, hey, handsome plumage. Okay, and then right. So this one's been a month in the coming. I think I forget who it was. I forget your names. I'm terribly sorry. But yeah, so and again, interesting buildings. You know, coming right back to buildings, we've got you know, this amazing looking construction. I don't know what it is. It feels like it's a train, like a station or something like that. You did tell me in the email, but I've totally forgotten. I'm terribly sorry. You know, I mentioned Ezra Stoller and Julius Schulman earlier, way back at the beginning, and this is kind of one of the things, is that when you photograph buildings that were designed, well, all buildings are designed, but you know, but like fancy buildings designed by architects, that I think it's important for you to kind of try and feel what the architect was trying to say, right? And not necessarily that you need to understand, oh, this is the waves crashing on the shore and the freedom of spirit and yada yada yada. But what are they trying to make the layperson feel in their images? What are the shapes? Why are they making these shapes? What are they doing? What is this curve? What are these? You know, they didn't just you know, suck all these things up. And if I look at this, right, you've done an obvious thing, which is look at the entire building and photograph the entire building, and that's quite natural. Most people would do that. But looking at this, I think I could spend a week here and have a different picture all the time. There is so much going on with this that I would love to see you go back to spend a day exploring this. Photograph it from a distance with the long lens, compress things. Photograph it from a wide angle. Photograph it from near, far, lying on the floor. You know, or stand right up against it. All sorts of things like that. It's got so much potential to offer you, and I think if this is close to you, you are extremely lucky to try it. So go back, see what you can sort of come up with. There's a wonderful playground here. You know, in regards to this particular image, it feels like you've come out, you walked along this plaza, you've gone, this is really kind of cool. I'm just going to take a picture of it, and then you move on. And a lot of us kind of fall into that trap, and it is unfortunate. You know, it's one of those themes of tonight. We have composition and cropping, also, and it's taking pictures of things that you think are interesting enough to warrant being just a picture by themselves, without being given all sorts of, by given the consideration that it deserves. So there we go. See, I say that again. So there we go. There we go. And okay, all right. So we got here little American flag and stuff like that. So you know, this also feels like a shot on film. It's got that kind of grainy, organic-y sort of feel to it, which I quite like. You know, there's nothing wrong with these things, certainly from that positive case. I think, you know, we talk about contrast with these kind of images. It works as a great deal, or it needs to be worked on a great deal. Not specifically, you know, there's anything wrong with this, but we need to pay attention to it. And also composition. It's definitely always composition tonight. This is one of those images that, because of the nature of it, you've got a recognizable symbol, but then everything else is kind of abstract, with the exception of the downlighters. You want to make more of it. You want to make more of these elements within it. That flag is such a recognizable symbol that it is going to draw your attention no matter where it is, because our eye is going to seek around and immediately go to the first thing that it says, I know what this is, and that's that flag, irrespective of where you live. So it needs to be somewhere dominant, and then from then you need to lead the eye around the frame, and right now you're not. Okay, you're going, there's the flag, there's some interesting stuff, and here's some other interesting stuff, and I'm not quite sure how to tie them all together. What I'm seeing initially is the flag, and then if you look at the pillar that this is on, you've got these shadows going diagonally across it, and then they dip downwards, right, because of the nature of how they're coming on there. Use those to lead the eye through. So really what you want to do is flag, lead, back to the flag. Something like that cycles the eye through. The trick to keeping people to looking is to keep the eye engaged, taking it on a journey that goes around, right? And you're not quite doing that here. So think about this. Next time you confront it, think about the object and how you can lead your eye, or lead the viewer's eye around the frame. This is a similar issue with this, is that there's not much going on. You've got a street scene, and you know there's some Christmas lighting and stuff like that, but there's not really anything else going on in the picture. The exposure's fine and everything is fine, but there's nothing in this photograph that is drawing my attention. There's the street going down, but beyond that there isn't really anything. You've got some lovely reflections on the cobbles and stuff like that, and you know, all these sort of things, but it's not, there's nothing focused on here, and I would like to see you focus on something. Take a scene like this that you quite like. If the scene is what attracts you, then compose it in a way that makes it a little bit more visually interesting. So what I mean by that is that you are standing up. You're standing with your camera. You go, oh, snap! I'm taking a picture. The bollards in the front. So if you don't speak English, those are the pointy bits, you know, that stop people on the road. Get down on there. Maybe, you know, think about how you can compose the image. And I don't know why I said that. For some reason, this makes me feel like this is Eastern Europe. Not Eastern Europe, but sort of Central Europe. And I can't quite see the picture. Drogo. Yes, yeah, okay. So because I'm thrown, because it says Guinness and stuff on the left side, I thought maybe it's Dublin or something. We want to make the image layered, have a bit more visual interest. It can be just a picture of a square, but make that picture of a square interesting. Find a bit of foreground, find a bit of midground, find a bit of background. Lead the eye through the frame, like I was saying with the previous one. And you can do that by focusing on a thing at the beginning, you know, the bollards or something, and you know, take it from there. Okay, whoops, there we go. Right, so it's funny, you know, we've been talking about sort of, you know, colours and black and whites and stuff like that, and I've said a lot of the black and white stuff tonight would probably feel better in colour, and this one I feel better with black and white. Probably because I think there would be more depth, there would be more scope for some dodging and burning on this, which would give it that depth, which it is lacking at the moment because the light is quite flat on it. It's just, yeah, it's not really doing anything too much. It needs to be a little bit more. It needs to be a little bit more. What's the word that I'm looking for? Organic. Sorry, talking for 3 hours about photos will do this. It needs to have more depth to it. It needs to have more kind of intrigue and mystery. You've got this wall. Why is there a wall in the middle of a wood? What is this? You know, stuff like that. And also it would get rid of that blue thing that it keeps drawing my eye. It's on the wall there at like kind of on a nearest down at a third, which is annoying. But yeah, I think being black and white, you can do a bit more dodging and burning, and you can give it more depth to the image. It would lead our eye in, whereas at the moment, because of the colouring and everything is quite these sort of bland greys and browns and stuff, it doesn't quite have that depth that it really could have with a dodge and with a good black and white processing and some dodging and burning on stuff to really sort of give it some depth. And I think that would really make this image come alive. Now, we had some keys and things earlier, and I wonder if this is not part of the same sort of sequence. Very interesting. This young lady, it's not bloody young, it's an icon. You know, so she's there. The thing that bothers me most immediately looking at this are the two red things that are really dominating the frame. If you're going to do this sort of thing, and I love the way that she is the only thing in focus. The problem is that the nature of her, she's quite delicate and very interesting, and those two red things are just, they are completely dominant, especially given that one of them's got some writing on it. It's all I see, unfortunately, which is such a shame, because I like the way that there's a quietness about this cut, you know, her being down here, this tiny thing. I wonder if you could revisit sort of something like this. And this is kind of a really good example of, I think, you know, spending a little bit more time just seeing what's around the frame, seeing what's distracting your eye. You know, good for you for spotting this icon in all this stuff, or whatever. I don't know how it's set up or what have you, and realizing that you want to focus in on her and using this approach that you have, but everything else is competing with it. It's too much. So go back, have a look, you know, rethink about, revisit the frame in your head and think about what could you have done to change it up a bit, keeping the core idea which you've got, which I like, but getting rid of that distracting stuff around the side. Okay, all right. So we got here. All right. So it's like a. Is this the same place as those birds we saw earlier? Do you think? I wonder. So this feels, if it is the same place, because they look like they're similar birds. You know, I think this is better. This is sort of, you know, coming on again. You know, I've used the word snapshot. We do use the word snapshot from time to time. And one of the things is that it's not because this is a detrimental thing about saying, but it's people who look at a scene, and then just take a picture and then sort of move off. And often as photographers, you know, we can't allow ourselves to do that. That is what the tourist does, right? The tourist just takes a picture, goes, that's interesting, and moves on. And a scene like this can often feel like the same sort of thing, is that we need to think about what you can take, what you can do to the image that will make it less of a snapshot. And I think with this, a different choice of lens probably would have been a better option, to maybe focus in on some of these birds, find something, because at the moment you're kind of, it feels like, much like these birds do, that you're fishing for a picture, that you're sort of hoping that one will sort of come up, that there's a couple of ideas that are going through your brain, you're getting like a foreground interest and stuff like that, but I feel that you want to be a little bit more focused in your images, and often, you know, we all kind of feel a bit flat from time to time and not quite sure, but you know, but try that. And I can see there's a beach in the background. If you could have gone over there and maybe shot back towards these birds, it might have been a very different kind of image. So again, you know, you've seen something that you thought was interesting, explore it more. Okay, so this is very interesting. So we've got you know, a cargo train, row of lights, all sorts of things like that. You've got the bucky or the utility or ute or whatever you want to call them in the front there with its lights. It, you know, the last image, I think, you know, these are two very different images on the face of it. And while they also have two very different technical approaches, I think they both suffer from the same thing, which is a lack of focus about what it is to photograph. There are interesting ideas in both of those images that can be worked upon, but this is having the same thing, that, you know, technically there's a nice balance, there's nothing, you know, it's all good, but there's nothing that really draws my attention to this picture. There's nothing that is like a focus. What is it? Is it a picture of the streetlights? Is it a picture of the streetlight reflections on the containers, or is it a picture of this car or this truck down the middle? You know, it's one of those things, you know, it's technically accomplished, because obviously, you know, it's tricky to balance all these things, but it lacks a something, it lacks a soul, it lacks something beyond, look how I can balance all these exposures. You know, I'm sorry if that sounds kind of like it's a bit airy-fairy, but I think you want to, you know, you've had access to this interesting place, and I think you could have done more with it. I think you could really push with it. You got the chops to deal with these tricky situations. So go and explore them, man. Just, you know, don't just think that you can just sit back and go, oh, look, I can expose things. Isn't that clever? Do some of those exposures. Make our jaws drop with these beautiful colours that you have. See, now this, and I'm going to guess we've got trains and stuff. I'm going to guess it's the same person, right? But if it's not, then whatever. But I like the fact that it is. This, look at this. This is a bit more. It's got more sort of soul. It's got more intrigue. It's got something going on. There's some interest. This is interesting. You know, there's things going on. You've got the train going, there's mistiness. It really is quite evocative. It would be nice to see a little bit more of the train. I don't know how you would manage that or something, but just a little bit so we could see whatever. And unfortunately, that gate in the middle ground is gate be gone, out damn spot. Yeah, about Shakespeare. Yeah, that gate, gate. It's really annoying. But I like this. It's moody. It's atmospheric. You know, you're not relying on convention about things. I know I said I'd like to see some more of the train. It's probably just to give it a bit more. There's a lot of momentum, a lot of power in that train. I want to see a bit of a train. I want to feel some of that latent power of that latent strength, you know, of giant mechanical processes going on. You know, trains are big things with lots of momentum. Show me it, make us feel quiet but strong. That's, yeah, really, really nice. It reminds me a little bit of Brass Eyes, Paris at Night stuff. And then we go, hey, reminds me of Brass Eyes. but yeah, that gate though, be gone gate, and that's about checking things out at the beginning. Right, are we going to say, are these ducks or the national birds of Canada? Anybody? Yeah? No? I don't know. Again, you know, we often, I think there's a better picture in here, and it's the cropping. You know, we talked about the one was the bird was cropped really close in. I think here we've got the opposite thing. We've got some lovely detail. You know, there's some awesome things going on. The sky is very moody. It's wintry, but I feel that it's too wide. It's one of those sort of things. Something that I do, obviously I have the benefit of looking at this on a big screen. I mean, you may be on a tablet or something like that. Is over here on the left, if I zoom in, there's some sort of building, like a church or cathedral, something like that. And the sky above it, on the left, has got detail, where the sky on the right doesn't. And I wonder if you don't come around to the right, take maybe a few meters down to the right hand side, is that you line up a highlight on the water with the sun coming through that the ducks could play through. Now they may just turn up, you know, you'd be like, oh, I'm lucky, ducks turn up, but they could play through that, and then you have that thing in the horizon there, just a little bit of distance, and then some stuff in the top. And I think that would kind of make this image better than what you've got right now, which is an interesting, but it's nicely set up and everything, but it's a bit, it doesn't have some proper focus to it. It's that wet, it's that damp flannel thing. It doesn't have the impact that it could have with a little bit of just shifting. And that's kind of, I think, you know, anybody who's looked at all these things tonight, these photographs are not bad, they're not wrong. They all have a core of it, something, an idea. They need a little bit of tweaking. That's kind of what it is. You know, you guys all got the right ideas, and you're going in the right direction. And it's just, we just need little pushes in the right, you know, sort of headings. Hardly surprising that winter is a theme here. I love this. This is the ice on on this barbed wire. Holy cuck, that must be cold to get that much on there. That's cold. I feel that it's. I think you're too tight on this. I know that I'm looking at that ice, and I love seeing that ice. But because you've included those trees in the background, something's not right. Maybe if you shifted so you're photographing down the fence, that it would make the composition feel a little bit nicer. Right now, the trees are not quite right. Either you want to come back a bit, or we want to really focus on that ice and stuff. And maybe, I don't know what sort of lenses you have available, but if you have something you could get right close, that you could possibly wait until the sky looks, it feels like the sun is relatively high in the sky for winter. But if this was shot at sunset, right? Where the light becomes quite warm and it's coming through that ice and all that kind of stuff, that it would radically change the picture. It would make it so much nicer, even though it's still cold. We get the cold from the ice, but those images that I think you back from the old Kodak days and stuff like that, you know, where they're winter things, but they're warm in a way. The lighting is warm, but you're getting the cold because of the icicles and that sort of stuff. Play with that. You know, so I think you've got some ideas going on here. Possibly the wrong choice of composition, and I certainly feel this is the wrong time of day to shoot this. You know, I want to just kind of, I want to kind of just have it at a nicer time in terms of light. Also, that would help bring out the texture on the texture on the old weathered fence post there. And then I think we are, is this, yeah, oh, there we go, right. So this is, so the last one, right, well, hey, all right. So, you know, this is, I think it's interesting we come back to the beginning, because, you know, we were talking about that was our first guy. That it's shots of things, and just sort of interest, and there is, it's been great to see tonight that there are lots of people willing to take chances on photographing different things, and I hope that, you know, even if, you know, some of the photographs you know, are not to your taste, which quite frankly, you know, nobody's going to like every single photograph ever that they see, and that's, you know, that's natural, but at least, you know, photographs like this also showing that anything can be a subject, and that we, you know, we've looked at framing this evening, and we've looked at composition, and we've looked at you know, sort of isolating subjects within there and stuff like that. And this you know, this image is an example of a couple of things. You know, the inky blackness around the image. It's okay to do this kind of thing. You know, it helps to frame elements in the image. Now, this may not be the world's most exciting photograph. You know, it's a young lady who's painted her toenails with, looks like Tipex. So I think, you know, these kind of opaque white sort of nail polishes and stuff are quite popular, but, you know, it's an interesting photograph. It's a mundane subject, treated in a slightly different way, and I think, you know, with all of our photography, if you keep pushing, if you keep sort of challenging your ideas about what it is that you can photograph, what it is that you, or the way that you can photograph them, then even something like this, I'm going to imagine this is you know, this photographer's daughter, you know, just lying watching TV, maybe something, and they've gone, oh, look at that interesting way that her feet are dangling in the light that's coming through the, you know, the window, and has photographed it and chosen to make the sides darker. Now, whether that's post, and I have a feeling, well, I have it of it's super dark, so I'm going to guess, you know, a fair amount of it is post. But try, you know, experiment with these things. Try them out, see what happens. I like this. I'm not sold on the knee that looks like it's been blurred out a little bit, and what have you. But that's nitpicking. You know, give it a whirl. Try different things. You know, and you know, whatever I've suggested tonight, and this goes for everybody who's looked at photographs, whatever sort of feedback I've given you. Obviously, that's my opinion, and my opinion is not always right. It's very often it's wrong if you listen to my wife. But you know, I hope that at the very least it encourages you to think about your photography in different ways, and to try and stuff. And Russell, thank you everybody. This is actually the last photograph, so there we go. Right, but yeah, it's been really good. So everybody, thank you ever so much. It's 11:15 here. I've been talking non-stop since 8 o'clock. So I am also going to call it a night. Wish me luck, all of them, because tomorrow is the first day of Easter school holidays, so we have Asher now until the end of April. So if I look increasingly haggard through the videos, you'll know why. And at the end of April, if I'm just, my hair's all like crazy, got wild eyes, and I just start laughing on camera, then just call the loony farm. No, I know, John. It's been there was like 63 images tonight, so it's been gone through, but there we go, lovely. And again, so if you have found tonight helpful, if you found it useful, and you'd like a little bit more kind of sort of one-to-one with your images, so we can actually spend a little more time in depth, I do offer some mentoring, feedback, whatever you want to call it. The link is, I've put it in the description. It's tpe.teachable.com, and it's in the chat box there. And you can either do like a 30-minute one-off session, or we can do sort of monthly ongoings. But anyway, thank you ever so much, everybody, guys. I'm going to go and collapse in a corner. Actually, got to go to bed. And so if you do want to have your images featured, then if you join the Patreon membership, then obviously you get a chance to put them in. But we do this once a month. This is the first time it's gone out live to everybody else, as opposed to being just in the membership channel. But yeah, thank you ever so much for being here and supporting me all the way through. And lovely. Have a wonderful Sunday, if you are in that part of the world where Sunday is just starting. If you're like me and Sunday is almost pretty much done, have an awesome Monday, an awesome week, and we'll see you again soon, everybody. So thank you ever so much, and it's been an absolute pleasure. This, of course, will stay live, so if you want to watch it, or if you know somebody who was watching it and didn't get a chance to see it, then I will just leave it up. That's kind of cool. All right, thank you ever so much, guys.